The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. For millennia, Jedi and Sith had believed themselves the pinnacle of galactic power, wielding abilities that bent reality itself. But what happens when something arrives that the Force cannot touch? A warrior forged not by mysticism, but by human ingenuity and unbreakable will. The outer rim world of Lothal had seen its share of suffering under Imperial rule. Once a peaceful agricultural planet with sprawling grasslands and self-sufficient communities, it had become another cog in the Empire's war machine, strip-mined, occupied, and oppressed. The citizens of Capital City had learned to keep their heads down, to ignore the endless patrols of white-armored stormtroopers, to pretend that TIE fighters screaming overhead were simply part of daily life. But on this particular day, something fell from the stars that would change everything. The Imperial blockade detected it first, a massive energy signature tearing through hyperspace in a way that defied all known physics. It wasn't a ship exactly. Scanners couldn't classify it. One moment the sector was empty, the next reality seemed to split open and vomit forth a burning fragment of twisted metal and impossible technology. The object carved through Lothal's atmosphere like a knife through flesh, trailing plasma and debris, its hull glowing white-hot from atmospheric entry. Commander Oresco stood on the command deck of the Imperial garrison, watching the scanners with growing concern. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" "Unknown, sir. The signature doesn't match any ship in our database. It's fragmentary, like a piece of something much larger." "Separatist remnant?" "Negative. The technology doesn't match anything from the Clone Wars. It's not even close." The fragment impacted 30 kilometers outside Capital City, in the eastern grasslands near the abandoned communications tower. The explosion rattled windows across 3 districts. A mushroom cloud of dust and burning vegetation rose into Lothal's pale sky. Within minutes, Imperial forces mobilized. 2 full platoons of stormtroopers, an ATST walker, and a squad of scout troopers on speeder bikes. Whatever had crashed, the Empire would secure it first. Agent Callus of the Imperial Security Bureau arrived at the garrison within the hour, his sideburns impeccably groomed, his uniform crisp despite Lothal's dusty air. He reviewed the data with cold efficiency. "The debris field suggests a catastrophic structural failure. But look here," he pointed to a specific reading. "This energy signature, it's still active. Something survived." "Survivors?" Oresco asked. "Or something worse?" Callus's eyes narrowed. "Deploy all units. I want that crash site locked down. Nothing gets in or out without my personal authorization." The crater was massive, 50 meters across, still smoking from the impact. The fragment itself was partially buried, its hull a strange amalgamation of alloys that reflected light in ways that seemed almost organic. It was clearly a piece of something larger, torn away violently. Scorch marks and battle damage covered its surface, and near the center of the wreckage, half buried in scorched earth, was a pod. It was angular, purpose-built, with a transparent canopy now cracked and dark. Frost clung to its edges despite Lothal's warm climate. The stormtroopers approached cautiously, weapons raised, their armor stark white against the blackened ground. "Reading a single life sign inside," one trooper reported, his voice crackling through the comm. "It's faint but stable." "Extract it," Callus ordered from his command position at the crater's edge. "Carefully." The pod seal broke with a hiss of escaping cryogenic gas. The canopy lifted slowly, revealing a figure inside that made every trooper take an involuntary step back. It was humanoid, roughly 2 meters tall, encased in armor unlike anything they'd ever seen. The suit was a deep green with gold highlights, its design simultaneously ancient and impossibly advanced. A reflective golden visor concealed the wearer's face entirely. The armor's surface was scarred, plasma burns, ballistic impacts, energy scorching, evidence of battles fought across years or decades. For a long moment, nothing happened. The figure lay still, frost melting from the armor's surface, steam rising in the afternoon air. Then, with a mechanical whir that sounded almost biological, the helmet turned slightly, the golden visor caught the light, and Master Chief Petty Officer John 1 and 17 opened his eyes. His HUD flickered to life, displaying error messages and system diagnostics in rapid succession. Cortana's voice was absent, a hollow silence where his AI companion should have been. His shields were at 17%. His motion tracker showed hostile signatures surrounding his position. His MA-5D assault rifle was still mag-locked to his back, but ammunition reserves were critically low. Chief processed all of this in less than 2 seconds. He assessed his situation with the cold efficiency of a Spartan. Unknown hostiles, unfamiliar environment, no backup, mission parameters undefined. His training kicked in immediately. Survive, adapt, overcome. He sat up in one smooth motion, ignoring the protests of muscles that had been frozen for an unknown duration. The stormtroopers reacted instantly, raising their E-11 blaster rifles, their formation tightening. Chief's armor registered the weapons, energy-based moderate threat level. His shields could handle several hits, but sustained fire would be problematic. "Halt!" one trooper barked. "Identify yourself. You are in violation of Imperial—" Chief moved. To the stormtroopers, he simply vanished from the pod. One moment he was sitting, the next he was in motion. A blur of green armor, moving with inhuman speed. His Spartan II augmentations turned him into something beyond human, and his Mjolnir armor amplified every movement. He covered the 3 meters to the nearest trooper before the man could finish his sentence. The trooper's blaster went flying. Chief's armored fist connected with another trooper's chest plate, and the man went down hard, his armor cracking from the impact force. Chief rolled, came up in a crouch, grabbed a third trooper's rifle, and crushed the barrel with one hand. Blaster bolts sizzled through the air where he'd been standing milliseconds before, his motion tracker guiding him through the chaos with perfect precision. "Open fire! All units! Open fire!" The crater erupted in a storm of red energy bolts. Chief's shields flared as they absorbed hit after hit, the energy barrier visible as a shimmering blue-white field around his armor. He moved through the onslaught like a ghost, using the wreckage as cover, his tactical assessment already complete. 24 hostiles, light armor, energy weapons, standard military formation. Manageable. But these weren't Covenant. These weren't insurrectionists. And this definitely wasn't Installation 04. Where the hell was he? The AT-ST Walker stomped into view, its massive feet crushing the grassland, its twin blaster cannons tracking toward Chief's position. That was a problem. Chief's shields could take small arms fire, but sustained heavy weapons would drain them fast. He needed to neutralize the vehicle or retreat. He chose option 3. Chief sprinted toward the Walker, not away from it. The pilot never expected it. Who charges an armored Walker on foot? Chief leapt, his armor's enhanced servos launching him 5 meters into the air. He grabbed the Walker's viewport, his armored fingers denting the transparent steel. The pilot inside screamed. Chief punched through the canopy, hauled the pilot out, and dropped him onto the ground below. The Walker stumbled, unbalanced. Chief dropped inside, assessed the controls in 2 seconds, primitive but functional, and turned the Walker's cannons on the stormtroopers. The emerald bolts from his appropriated vehicle sent white-armored soldiers scrambling for cover. Chief didn't fire to kill, just to scatter. He needed information, not bodies. The Walker's comm system squawked with panicked Imperial chatter. Chief listened, his translator suite attempting to parse the language. Basic, his armor's linguistic database finally supplied. Galactic Basic. Where had he heard that before? "All units fall back. Fall back to secondary perimeter." Chief stepped out of the Walker, his shields recharging now that incoming fire had ceased. He surveyed the battlefield with practiced efficiency. Roughly a dozen stormtroopers down, none dead. Good. He wasn't here to start a war. He was here to figure out what the hell had happened to the Forward Unto Dawn and how to get home. Agent Callus watched from his command position, his expression unreadable. He tapped his comm. "Contact the Inquisitorius. Tell them we have something that requires their immediate attention. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you." Chief's motion tracker pinged. More signatures approaching from the west. Faster than the armored soldiers, moving with purpose and coordination. He turned, his MA-5D now in his hands, its weight familiar and comforting, despite the alien landscape around him. The grasslands stretched endlessly under a sky with too few stars. The sun was wrong. The air tasted wrong. Everything was wrong. But Master Chief had been in worse situations. He'd been in the worst situations. And he was still here. The Ghost crew had been monitoring Imperial frequencies when the crash occurred. Hera Syndulla, the ship's Twi'lek pilot and de facto leader, had learned long ago that unusual Imperial activity usually meant either opportunity or danger, and sometimes both. When every garrison on Lothal suddenly mobilized toward the eastern grasslands, she knew something significant had happened. "Kanan, you seeing this?" she called to the common area, where Kanan Jarrus was mediating, or pretending to meditate while actually napping. The former Jedi opened his eyes, his presence in the Force already reaching out toward the disturbance. He'd felt it the moment the fragment tore through Lothal's atmosphere. A strange ripple, like a stone thrown into still water. Except the ripples moved wrong. There was something at the crash site that the Force couldn't quite touch. A blind spot in his perception that made his instincts scream warnings. "I feel it," Kanan said quietly. "Something's wrong. The Force is disturbed." "The Force is always disturbed these days," Sabine Wren muttered from her workstation, where she was modifying detonators with artistic precision. The young Mandalorian looked up from her work, her armor painted in brilliant oranges and purples. "What kind of disturbance are we talking about?" "The kind that has every bucket head on Lothal converging on one location," Zeb rumbled, his massive Lasat frame filling the doorway as he checked the tactical display. "Could be weapons, could be refugees, could be our chance to hit the Empire while they're distracted," Ezra Bridger interrupted, the teenage Force-sensitive bounding into the room with his usual enthusiasm. His dark hair was even more disheveled than normal, and his eyes gleamed with the reckless energy that made Kanan simultaneously proud and terrified. "Come on, Hera. When's the last time we saw this much Imperial panic?" Hera's Leku twitched, her species equivalent of a concerned frown. "Ezra's right about one thing. The Empire doesn't panic. If they're throwing this many resources at a crash site, whatever came down is important." "Or dangerous," Kanan added. "So we go look," Sabine said, already strapping on her helmet. "Standard reconnaissance. In and out before the Imperials know we're there." Kanan caught Hera's eye. They'd been working together long enough that words weren't necessary. She saw his concern, the way his hand unconsciously drifted toward his lightsaber. Whatever was at that crash site, it had a Jedi worried. That wasn't a good sign. "Chopper, prep the Phantom," Hera ordered. The astromech droid beeped an irritated acknowledgement, his default response to everything. "Everyone gear up. We leave in 5. By the time the Ghost's auxiliary vessel approached the crash site, the situation had already deteriorated. Hera kept the Phantom low, skimming the grasslands, using the terrain to mask their approach. Through the viewport, they could see the crater and the chaos surrounding it. Stormtroopers were scattered across the field in defensive positions, their white armor stark against the scorched earth. An AT-ST walker lay on its side, smoke rising from its cabin, and in the center of it all, standing amid the wreckage like a statue cast in green and gold, was a figure in armor that made Sabine's breath catch. "What is that?" she whispered. The armor was beautiful in its functionality, every angle purposeful, every plate designed for maximum protection and mobility. It was like someone had taken Mandalorian philosophy and pushed it 1,000 years into the future. The helmet's golden visor reflected Lothal's sun like a mirror, revealing nothing of the warrior beneath. "Reading elevated energy signatures around the armor," Hera reported, studying her instruments. "Some kind of defensive shield system, but the technology doesn't match anything in our database." "He's not moving," Ezra observed. "Just standing there, waiting." Kanan's eyes narrowed. "He knows we're here. He's been tracking us since we entered the area." Chief's motion tracker had indeed flagged the approaching vessel. Smaller than the walkers, faster, using terrain masking to avoid detection. Professional tactics, not like the heavy-handed Imperial approach. His HUD analyzed the ship's profile. Light freighter configuration, modified for combat, non-standard armaments. Rebels, most likely. Or pirates. Either way, New variables in an already complex situation. His ammunition counter read 32 rounds remaining for his MA5D. He'd recovered 2 energy magazines from the downed soldiers, the rifles they called blasters. The technology was crude compared to UNSC standards, but effective. Directed energy weapons with virtually unlimited ammunition as long as the power cells held. He'd need to test their effectiveness, but they'd do for now. The Ghost landed 200 meters from his position. Chief watched through his HUD's magnification as 5 figures emerged. A Twi'lek female, a human male with a lightsaber at his belt, a young human male, a female in colorful armor, and a large alien species he didn't recognize. Not Imperial. Their body language was wrong. Too relaxed, too coordinated. The one with the lightsaber moved with the confidence of someone who'd seen real combat. That one was dangerous. "Hands where we can see them," the young male called out, his voice cracking slightly with nerves. He held a blaster pistol that had been modified so many times it barely resembled its original design. "We're not with the Empire, but we're not going to let you shoot up Lothal either." Chief didn't move. His translator was still processing the language variations, but the meaning was clear enough. These people weren't his enemy yet, but they also weren't UNSC, weren't his chain of command, weren't anything he recognized. Kanan stepped forward slowly, his hand open and away from his lightsaber. He could feel the force moving strangely around the armored figure, like water flowing around a stone. Not force-sensitive, but not force-null either. Something else entirely. Something that made every instinct Kanan had developed over 15 years of hiding scream at him to be careful. "We're not looking for a fight," Kanan said evenly. "The Empire's already sending reinforcements. Another few minutes and this place will be crawling with troopers. If you want to survive, you need to come with us." Chief's HUD displayed tactical projections. The man was right. His motion tracker was already picking up additional contacts approaching from Capital City. At least 4 transport vessels, possibly more. If he stayed, he'd be engaged in a prolonged battle with unknown enemies using unfamiliar technology. His shields were at 60%, his ammunition was limited, and he had no idea where he was or how to get home. Strategic withdrawal was the logical choice, but trusting unknown combatants was a risk. Chief's hand moved to his MA5D's stock, not threatening, just ready. He spoke for the first time since waking. His voice filtered through his helmet's external speakers, flat and mechanical. "Who are you?" The words came out in perfect galactic basic, his armor's translator suite having finally compiled enough linguistic data. The effect on the Ghost crew was immediate. They'd expected another language, expected confusion, expected anything but perfect basic delivered in that emotionless tone. "We're," Ezra started. "We're people who don't want to see the Empire get their hands on you," Kanan interrupted smoothly. "Whatever you are, whatever that armor is, the Empire will take it apart piece by piece. They'll study it, replicate it, and use it to tighten their grip on the galaxy. Is that what you want?" Chief processed this. Empire, galaxy. The words suggested a political structure, likely authoritarian based on the tactics he'd observed. The soldiers he'd fought wore identical armor, moved in standard formations, followed orders without question. Military dictatorship, possibly fascist in nature. He'd fought enemies like that before. But these rebels, if that's what they reminded him of someone, of the way Sergeant Johnson had looked at him sometimes, like he was more than just a weapon, like he was a soldier who could choose his battles. "TIE fighters inbound," Sabine called out, her helmet sensors picking up the distinctive twin-ion engine signatures. "We need to move now." Chief made his decision in less than a second. He'd need intelligence, resources, and allies to navigate this situation. These people were offering all 3. It might be a trap, but staying was guaranteed combat with an unknown enemy force. Spartans were taught to adapt or die. Chief sprinted toward the Ghost, his armored form covering the distance in seconds. The crew scrambled aboard, Zeb muttering something about crazy armored lunatics, while Sabine couldn't stop staring at Chief's armor design. Hera was already firing up the engines before Chief's boots hit the deck plating. The Phantom lifted off just as the first TIE fighters screamed overhead. their green laser fire stitching across the grasslands. Hera threw the ship into a banking turn that would have killed unaugmented humans from the G-forces, but Chief merely adjusted his stance, his armor's inertial compensators handling the stress. He mag-locked his boots to the deck and watched through the viewport as Lothal's surface fell away. "Chopper, tell the Ghost to prep for immediate dust-off," Hera ordered. "We're coming in hot." The Phantom docked with its parent ship with practiced precision, and moments later the Ghost was ascending through Lothal's atmosphere with 4 TIE fighters in pursuit. Hera flew like the ship was an extension of her body, threading through canyons, using cloud cover, executing maneuvers that pushed both her vessel and her crew to their limits. Chief watched it all with professional appreciation. The pilot was excellent, better than good. She flew with instinct and precision, the kind of skill that couldn't be taught, only earned through combat and survival. The ties broke off once they reached orbit, apparently unwilling to pursue further. Hera set a course for deep space, away from Lothal's shipping lanes and Imperial patrols. Only when they'd made the jump to hyperspace, a blue-white tunnel of impossible light that Chief's HUD couldn't quite process, did she finally turn to face their passenger. Master Chief stood in the Ghost common area, his armor making him look like some ancient warrior god transplanted into their time. His golden visor swept across each crew member in turn, analyzing, assessing, calculating threat levels and tactical capabilities. Finally, Kanan spoke. "Now, who are you? And what the hell are you doing on Lothal?" Chief's response was simple, direct, and raised more questions than it answered. "Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, UNSC Navy, serial number 117. I was in cryo sleep aboard the Forward Unto Dawn when something pulled us through. Somewhere. I need to know where I am, what happened to my ship, and how to get back." The crew stared at him. UNSC Navy. None of those terms existed in any galactic database. It was as if this warrior had simply appeared from nowhere, speaking their language but using words that had no meaning. "You're in the Lothal system," Hera said slowly. "Outer Rim territories, part of the Galactic Empire. As for your ship..." She gestured to the viewport, where stars streamed past in hyperspace. "I don't think it's in this galaxy anymore." For the first time since waking, Master Chief felt something that might have been close to uncertainty. He was farther from home than he'd ever been. The Ghost drifted through hyperspace, its blue-white tunnel of distorted light casting strange shadows across the common area. Master Chief stood motionless near the holotable, his armor's presence dominating the cramped space. The crew had given him room, not out of courtesy, but because something about the Spartan stillness suggested coiled violence ready to explode at any moment. Kanan hadn't taken his eyes off Chief since they jumped to hyperspace. The Force whispered warnings he couldn't quite interpret. It wasn't danger exactly, more like standing near something vast and unknowable, a black hole in the Force, pulling at the edges of his perception without ever letting him see what lay at the center. "So let me get this straight," Ezra said, pacing nervously. "You're from another galaxy, another dimension, and you just fell through a hole in space?" "Unknown," Chief replied, his voice stripped of inflection by his helmet speakers. "The Forward Unto Dawn was caught in a Forerunner slipspace rupture. Standard physics didn't apply. We could have traveled across space, time, or dimensional barriers. I need access to your navigational data and star charts." "Forerunner?" Sabine echoed, pulling up a datapad. "Never heard of them. And trust me, I know my alien species. What sector are they from?" Chief's helmet turned toward her. Behind his visor, his HUD was running continuous analysis. Biometric scans, threat assessment, tactical positioning. These people weren't soldiers, not in the UNSC sense. They operated like insurgents. Guerrilla fighters. The kind of people Oni would have labeled as rebels and either recruited or eliminated. "They're not from this galaxy," Chief said simply, "if I'm understanding your situation correctly." Hera leaned against the holotable, her arms crossed. "You're understanding it fine. Which brings us to our problem. The Empire saw you. They saw your armor, your weapons, your capabilities. Agent Callus isn't going to let this go. He'll tear Lothal apart looking for you. And when he doesn't find you there, he'll expand the search," Kanan added. The Empire doesn't forget. They don't forgive. And they sure as hell don't ignore someone who can take down 20 stormtroopers and hijack an AT-ST in under 2 minutes. Zeb grunted his agreement from where he sat cleaning his bow rifle. Not to mention whatever that shield thing is. Never seen anything stop blaster fire like that. Beskar armor, maybe, but that was different. It glowed. Energy shielding, Chief explained. Standard Mjolnir protective system. Absorbs kinetic and energy impacts until overloaded, then requires recharge time. Your blasters are less powerful than Covenant plasma weapons. My shields can handle sustained fire from your infantry weapons. The casual way he said it, like fighting off an army was just another day at the office, sent a chill through the crew. Sabine's mind was already racing with questions. The engineering required for personal energy shields was theoretically possible, but no one had made it practical. Too much power draw, too much heat dispersion, too much weight. But this armor did it. Somehow this armor solved problems that had stumped the galaxy's best engineers for centuries. How much can those shields take? She asked, unable to hide her professional interest. Sustained heavy weapons fire will overwhelm them. Explosives, sustained melee strikes from sufficient force, lightsaber-class plasma weapons would likely require field testing to determine effectiveness. Kanan's hand unconsciously moved to his lightsaber. You know about lightsabers? I observed one on your belt. Energy-based melee weapon, approximately 1 meter blade length, contained plasma field. Similar to Covenant energy swords, but with different field containment technology. Chief's helmet tilted slightly. You're force sensitive, the one they're hunting. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. No one moved. Chopper, who had been beeping commentary from the corner, fell silent. What did you just say? Kanan's voice was dangerously quiet. Your biosigns indicate heightened awareness and reflexes beyond your species' baseline. You move with unconscious precognition. Your weapon is a Jedi weapon. The Empire is hunting Jedi. Logical conclusion, you're force-sensitive and in hiding. Ezra's hand dropped to his blaster. Zeb stood up, his massive frame blocking the corridor. Sabine's hand was already on a detonator. Even Hera had shifted her stance, ready for violence. Chief didn't move. His motion tracker showed all 5 crew members had adopted combat-ready positions. His threat assessment calculated his odds. Confined space, unknown capabilities from the Force sensitives, limited ammunition, no tactical exit. Fighting his way out would be possible, but costly, and ultimately pointless. He needed these people more than they needed him. I'm not your enemy, Chief said, his tone unchanged. I'm stating tactical observations. Where I'm from, there's no Force, no Jedi, no Empire. If you're fighting them, that makes you the closest thing to allies I have in this galaxy. Kanan studied the armored figure for a long moment. The Force couldn't read the man inside that suit, couldn't sense his intentions, couldn't feel his emotions. It was like trying to read a droid, except droids didn't move like predators. Droids didn't survive impossible odds through skill and will alone. Finally, Kanan's hand moved away from his lightsaber. We don't usually broadcast that information. Most people who know what I am either want to kill me or turn me over to the Empire for a reward. I want neither, Chief replied. I want to understand this galaxy, locate any surviving UNSC personnel or equipment, and find a way home. Your conflict with the Empire is not my mission objective. Not your problem, you mean, Ezra said, his voice sharp with anger. People are suffering under Imperial rule, families torn apart, planets stripped for resources, and you're just going to ignore all that because it's not your mission? For a moment, Chief didn't respond. Behind his visor, memories flickered. Reach burning, the pillar of autumn falling apart around him, Johnson dying on Installation 08, Cortana fragmenting in his arms. Every mission where he'd followed orders while worlds burned. Every time he'd prioritized objectives over people, because that's what Spartans did. That's what he'd been made to do. My mission, Chief said slowly, is survival until I can establish contact with UNSC Command or locate a method to return to my galaxy. Everything else is secondary. Typical soldier, Sabine muttered. Just following orders. I follow orders because they're given by people with better tactical overview than I possess. But I'm currently cut off from my command structure, which means I need to make my own tactical decisions. Chief's helmet turned to face each crew member in turn. Analyzing my situation, I'm stranded in hostile territory with no support, limited ammunition, and incomplete intelligence. You're offering shelter and information. In exchange, I can offer combat support for your operations. We're not soldiers, Hera said firmly. We don't hire mercenaries. I'm not a mercenary. I'm a Spartan. Where I'm from, that means something. Chief paused, searching for words that could bridge the gap between his world and theirs. I was created to protect humanity, augmented, trained since childhood to be a weapon. But Dr. Halsey once told me that the measure of a soldier isn't their capacity for violence. It's what they choose to protect. You're protecting people from tyranny. That's something I understand. The common area fell quiet except for the background hum of the Ghost's engines. Kanan exchanged glances with Hera. They'd taken in strays before. Ezra had been just another street rat when they'd found him. Sabine had been a deserter from the Imperial Academy. Zeb was the last survivor of his people. The Ghost crew was built from broken pieces, trying to make something whole. But this was different. This was inviting something dangerous into their home. Something that could break them all if it turned against them. Hera made the decision. She usually did. Here's the deal, Chief. You want information? We'll share what we know. You need supplies? We'll help you scavenge what we can. But if you're staying on my ship, you follow my rules. We don't kill unless there's no other choice. We protect civilians first, always. And if I tell you to stand down, you stand down. Understood? Chief considered this. The parameters were acceptable. Non-lethal operations, when possible, aligned with UNSC rules of engagement in civilian areas. Protecting non-combatants was standard doctrine. Following chain of command was what he'd done his entire life. Understood, Chief confirmed. One condition: if we encounter threats beyond your crew's capability, I maintain tactical authority for combat operations. Meaning you take over if things get ugly, Zeb rumbled. Meaning I use my experience to keep you alive. I've been fighting wars since I was 14 years old. I'm 39 now, subjective time. I've fought enemies that would have glassed your homeworlds without hesitation. If I tell you to take cover, you take cover. Sabine whistled low. 25 years of combat, how are you still standing? Augmentation, training, armor, luck. Chief's tone suggested the last item was the least reliable. And because people kept counting on me to stand, Ezra studied the Spartan with new eyes. Underneath the armor and the weapons and the impossible combat capabilities, there was just a soldier. Someone who'd been fighting so long he didn't know how to stop. Someone who'd lost everything and kept going, because that's what soldiers did. All right, Kanan said finally. You can stay, but we're going to need to see that helmet come off eventually. Call it trust building. Negative. Mjolnir armor remains sealed in hostile environment. This galaxy qualifies as hostile environment until proven otherwise. Paranoid much, Ezra muttered. Paranoia kept me alive through the Human Covenant War. I don't plan to change tactics now. Hera pulled up the holotable, projecting a star map of the outer rim. If you're going to operate in this galaxy, you need to understand the situation. 15 years ago, the Galactic Republic fell. A Sith Lord named Palpatine orchestrated a war between the Republic and a separatist movement, then used it to seize absolute power. He declared himself Emperor and created the Galactic Empire. The Jedi Order, the peacekeepers who'd protected the galaxy for thousands of years, were wiped out, hunted down and killed. Chief's HUD recorded every detail. Political coup, religious purge, authoritarian regime built on manufactured conflict, classic divide and conquer strategy scaled to galactic proportions. The Empire controls most of the galaxy now, Kanan continued, his voice tight with old pain. They rule through fear, star destroyers, stormtroopers, public executions. Anyone who resists is labeled a rebel and eliminated. We're part of a growing resistance movement, but we're scattered, underfunded, outgunned. Tactical assessment, asymmetric warfare. You're insurgents fighting a superior force through guerrilla tactics and local support networks. Chief processed the implications. The Empire's weakness is overextension. They can't occupy every world with sufficient force. Your advantage is mobility and local knowledge. That's actually pretty much our strategy, Hera admitted. We hit Imperial targets, free prisoners, steal supplies, then disappear before they can respond with overwhelming force. It's working, Sabine added. Slowly, the Ghost crew has inspired other cells across the Outer Rim. People are starting to believe they can fight back. Chief understood immediately. These people weren't just soldiers. They were a symbol, hope given form. It reminded him of Captain Keyes' final words, of Johnson's sacrifice, of every soldier who'd fought impossible odds because someone had to stand. The Empire will escalate, Chief warned. They'll commit greater resources to hunting you. Eventually, they'll deploy assets specifically designed to counter your tactics. Capital ships, elite forces, overwhelming firepower. We know, Kanan said grimly. We've seen it before. But what choice do we have? Roll over and let them win. For the first time, Chief felt something like kinship with these strangers. They reminded him of the Marines he'd fought beside. Outmatched, outgunned, facing extinction, but still standing because someone had to. No choice, Chief agreed. You fight or you die. Sometimes you fight and die anyway, but at least you die standing. The words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Chopper beeped something that sounded like approval, then rolled away muttering binary curses. The crew slowly relaxed, weapons lowering, combat stances easing. The immediate threat had passed. The Spartan was, for now, an ally. We're dropping out of hyperspace in 10 minutes, Hera announced. There's an old Republic outpost on Gorel we use as a supply cache. We can resupply there, figure out our next move. Chief nodded acknowledgement. His shields were back to full capacity. His ammunition situation remained critical. He'd need to source power cells for the captured blasters and figure out how to adapt his equipment to this galaxy's technology. But that was a problem for later. Right now, he needed to process the staggering reality of his situation. He was in another galaxy, billions of light years from home, or worse, in another dimension entirely. The UNSC didn't exist here. Earth didn't exist here. Everyone he'd ever known, everyone he'd ever fought to protect, might as well be in another universe. Because they were. For the first time in his life, Master Chief had no mission parameters, no orders, no chain of command. Just a crew of rebels fighting an empire, and a choice about whether their war was worth fighting. Spartans never died, but they could still be lost. The ancient Republic outpost on Gorel was exactly what Chief expected. Abandoned, partially collapsed and forgotten by the Empire as strategically irrelevant. Perfect for rebels who needed to operate in the shadows. The Ghost settled into a concealed landing pad overgrown with native vegetation, its camouflage plating blending seamlessly with the surrounding jungle canopy. Chief descended the ramp first, his MA-5D held at low ready, motion tracker sweeping the perimeter. Old habits. The jungle was dense, humid, filled with sounds his audio receptors couldn't quite classify. His HUD tagged dozens of life signs, indigenous fauna, nothing immediately threatening. Still, he maintained tactical awareness. Complacency killed soldiers faster than enemy fire. Relax, Chief, Sabine said, walking past him with her helmet under one arm. We've used this place for months. The Empire doesn't even know it exists. The Empire didn't know I existed 12 hours ago, Chief replied, not lowering his weapon. Now I'm their priority target. Operational security demands assuming hostile surveillance until proven otherwise. Kanan had to admit the Spartan had a point. They'd been careful, but Chief's arrival had changed the equation. Agent Callus was probably dissecting every second of footage from the crash site, analyzing Chief's combat capabilities, tracing the Ghost signature. It was only a matter of time before the Empire connected the dots. The outpost's interior was a maze of corroded corridors and failing power systems. Hera led them to the main supply cache, a reinforced storage bay containing food, medical supplies, spare parts, and most importantly, weapons. Crates of blasters, thermal detonators, and ammunition lined the walls. Not enough to fight a war, but enough to sustain their operations for another few months. Chief immediately began cataloging. His tactical assessment ran continuously. 3 crates of power cells compatible with E-11 blaster rifles, 2 crates of thermal detonators, effective but primitive compared to UNSC fragmentation grenades, various medical supplies his armor's database couldn't fully analyze without samples. No ammunition for his MA5D. That weapon was effectively a club now until he could manufacture rounds, and that required resources he didn't have. Here, Zeb said, tossing Chief an E-11 rifle. You'll want one of these if you're staying. Standard Imperial weapon, reliable, decent stopping power, practically unlimited ammo as long as you've got power cells. Chief caught it one-handed, his HUD immediately scanning the weapon's specifications. Gas-operated blaster, Tabana gas cartridge, detachable power cell rated for approximately 100 shots per cell. Effective range 300 meters, reduced accuracy beyond 150. Crude compared to UNSC weapons, but functional. He mag-locked it to his armor's thigh plate. Your armor, Sabine said, unable to contain her curiosity any longer. Can I examine it? Just externally. I'm an engineer and an artist. I've never seen anything like this. Chief regarded her for a moment. In his experience, letting anyone get close to his armor was a tactical risk. But he needed these people's cooperation, and the Mandalorian had proven herself competent. Besides, his armor's security protocols would prevent any meaningful tampering without his authorization. External examination only, Chief said. No tools, no scanning equipment without my approval. Sabine's face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. She circled Chief slowly, studying every angle of his Mjolnir armor with professional appreciation. The design philosophy is incredible. Every plate provides maximum coverage while maintaining mobility. The joint seals are airtight but don't restrict movement. And these scorch marks, she traced a plasma burn across his chest plate. You've taken hits that should have killed you. Multiple times, Chief confirmed. Mjolnir Mark 6 can take sustained fire from Covenant plasma weapons. Your blasters are less powerful. What about lightsabers? Ezra asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. The kid had been watching Chief with a mixture of awe and suspicion since they'd left Lothal. Unknown, insufficient data. Lightsaber plasma is magnetically contained, possibly at higher temperatures than Covenant plasma. Field testing would be required. Field testing, Kanan repeated. You mean letting someone swing a lightsaber at you to see what happens? Affirmative. Tactical data requires empirical testing. You're insane, Zeb muttered. Chief didn't respond. Spartans weren't insane. They were practical. Understanding enemy capabilities required risk. That was the job. Hera was at the outpost communications terminal, her Leku twitching with concentration as she monitored Imperial frequencies. What she was hearing made her stomach tighten. We've got a problem. Imperial Security Bureau has issued a sector-wide alert. They're looking for an armored hostile matching Chief's description. Reward is 50,000 credits for information leading to capture. 50,000? Ezra whistled. That's serious money. Every bounty hunter in the sector is going to be looking for him. Not just bounty hunters, Hera continued, her voice grim. They've mobilized inquisitors. Plural. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Even Chief, who didn't fully understand the significance, could read the crew's body language. Fear, the kind that came from experience. Inquisitors, Kanan said quietly, his hand unconsciously moving to his lightsaber. They're sending Force users after us. What are Inquisitors? Chief asked, his tactical database already creating a new threat category. Kanan's jaw tightened. They're dark side users. Former Jedi who turned to the Empire, or Force sensitives the Empire captured and corrupted. They hunt surviving Jedi using the Force to track us. They're skilled, they're ruthless, and they carry double-bladed lightsabers. I've fought one before, barely survived. Chief processed this new intelligence. Enemy assets with precognition, enhanced reflexes, and energy weapons capable of cutting through most materials. Effectively superhuman combatants with religious training and combat experience. The Covenant had similar warrior priests, Sangheili zealots who fought with fanatical skill and religious fervor. Capabilities assessment, Chief said. Can they sense me through the Force? Kanan concentrated, reaching out with the Force toward the Spartan. It was like trying to touch smoke. There was something there, mass, presence, life, but the force slid around it like oil on water. No, you're blank. A void. They can probably sense me, Ezra, even the rest of the crew if they concentrate. But you're invisible to the force. Tactical advantage, Chief noted. If they can't sense me, they can't predict my movements. Standard combat doctrine becomes applicable. Standard combat doesn't work against Inquisitors, Sabine interjected. They can deflect blaster bolts with their lightsabers. They can throw you across a room without touching you. They can read your intentions before you act. They can read force-sensitive intentions, Chief corrected. I don't use the force. My tactical doctrine is based on calculated probability and pattern recognition, not mystical precognition. If they can't sense me in the force, I'm fighting them on even ground. Ezra laughed, but there was no humor in it. Even ground? Chief, these guys can cut through blast doors. They can leap 10 meters straight up. They can be killed, Chief interrupted, his tone flat and certain. I've fought enemies with similar capabilities. Sangheili warriors who could move faster than human eyes could track. Brutes who could tear humans apart with their bare hands. Flood combat forms that adapted to every tactic we used. The Inquisitors have advantages, but they're not invincible. Everything that lives can be killed. You just need the right tactics and sufficient firepower. The certainty in Chief's voice was almost reassuring. Almost. The crew had been running from Inquisitors for years, avoiding them, hiding, using every trick they had just to survive encounters. And here was this soldier from another galaxy talking about killing them, like it was a math problem to be solved. The transmission mentioned specifically that the Inquisitors are interested in you, Hera said, turning to face Chief. Not just to capture you for your armor. They want to study you, figure out why the Force can't touch you. Then they've made a tactical error, Chief said. They've told us their objective. That gives us operational advantage. We know they want me alive, which means they'll hesitate in combat. That hesitation is exploitable. You want to use yourself as bait, Kanan realized. I want to eliminate a threat while we have initiative, an element of surprise. If these Inquisitors are hunting me, they're a problem that will escalate until resolved. Better to engage on our terms than theirs. That's suicide, Zeb growled. That's tactics, Chief corrected. The longer we wait, the more intelligence they gather. The more intelligence they gather, the more they adapt their strategy. We strike first, strike hard, eliminate the threat before they understand what they're facing. Sabine was shaking her head, but Chief could see the professional part of her mind considering the plan. Even if we wanted to do this, which I'm not saying we do, how would we even find them? It's not like Inquisitors advertise their locations. They're tracking me, Chief said. We use that. Set a trap. Isolated location. Tactical terrain that favors range combat. Multiple fallback positions. And overwhelming firepower at the kill zone. You're talking about an ambush, Hera said slowly. We've never gone after an Inquisitor deliberately. We've always run when they show up. Running is defensive posture. Defense doesn't win wars. At some point, you have to take offensive action or accept that you're just prolonging the inevitable. Chief's helmet turned to Kanan. You fought one before. What's their weakness? Kanan wanted to say they didn't have weaknesses, but that wasn't true. He'd survived his encounter with the Grand Inquisitor, which meant there had to be gaps in their defense. He thought back to that fight, to every desperate moment. They're overconfident. They've spent years hunting scared survivors. They don't expect real resistance, and their precognition isn't perfect. It's interpretation of Force visions, not absolute certainty. If you're unpredictable enough, you can surprise them. And you're definitely unpredictable, Ezra added, studying Chief with new respect. They've never fought anything like you. They won't know what to expect. Chief's tactical processors were already running scenarios. Inquisitor capabilities, enhanced speed, strength, precognition, energy weapon proficiency, possible Forces telekinesis. Weaknesses, overconfidence, predictable combat doctrine based on Force superiority, limited experience against opponents they can't sense through the Force. Counter tactics, long-range engagement outside lightsaber effective range, explosive ordnance to overwhelm defense capabilities, crossfire from multiple angles to divide attention, target environmental structures to limit mobility and create obstacles. We need higher ground, Chief said, already planning the battle space. Elevated positions, clear sight lines, multiple firing angles. Thermal detonators positioned at choke points. E-11 rifles provide suppression fire while I engage with precision shots. Kanan and Ezra stay in reserve, exploit openings when the Inquisitor's attention is divided. You're actually serious about this, Hera said, but she was already pulling up tactical maps of the surrounding area. Inquisitors are force multipliers for the Empire, Chief explained. Eliminating even one would significantly impact Imperial operations in this sector. Strategic value justifies operational risk. It's not the strategic value I'm worried about, Kanan said quietly. It's whether we survive the attempt. Chief's response was simple, delivered in that flat mechanical tone that somehow carried absolute certainty. I've survived worse. The crew exchanged glances. They'd all seen combat. They'd all faced impossible odds. But there was something about the Spartan's confidence that was either inspiring or terrifying, maybe both. He talked about fighting dark side force users the way someone else might discuss repairing a speeder bike. Just another problem to solve, another enemy to eliminate, another day in the war that never ended. I'll run sensor sweeps, Hera said finally. See if we can track Inquisitor movements in the sector. But Chief, understand something. We don't throw away lives for tactical advantages. If this goes wrong, we extract. No heroic last stands. We're no good to the rebellion dead. Agreed, Chief said. Spartans are taught to survive. Dead soldiers don't complete missions. Chopper rolled in, beeping frantically at Hera. She listened to the droid's report, her expression darkening. We've got another problem. Chopper's been monitoring hyperspace traffic. An Imperial Star Destroyer just entered the system. The Lawbringer, that's Callus's ship. How long until they can locate this outpost, Chief asked. If they're scanning for rebel signatures? Hours, maybe less. This place isn't as hidden as we like. Chief's motion tracker suddenly pinged. Multiple contacts, approaching fast from the south. His HUD displayed the data. 6 signatures, moving with tactical precision, spacing that suggested military training. Contact, Chief said, his E-11 already raised. 6 hostiles, southbound approach, 200 meters in closing. The crew snapped into combat positions with practiced efficiency. Kanan's lightsaber was in his hand, unignited but ready. Ezra had his blaster saber hybrid drawn. Zeb grabbed his bow rifle. Sabine armed a pair of thermal detonators, and Hera pulled her blaster pistol. Could be scouts, Zeb suggested. Or bounty hunters, Sabine added. 50,000 credits attracts a lot of attention. Chief's audio receptors picked up mechanical sounds. Servos, heavy footsteps, not organic. Droid, he said. Combat configuration, Imperial manufacture. The first droid appeared through the jungle undergrowth, a dark skeletal frame with red photoreceptors and a built-in blaster carbine. Then another, and another. 6 in total, spreading out in a standard search pattern. ID-10 seeker droids, Kanan identified. Imperial reconnaissance units. They found us. Then they've already transmitted our location, Hera said grimly. We need to move. Now. Chief was already calculating extraction routes and probable enemy response times. If the droids had transmitted, Imperial forces would arrive within minutes. Star Destroyer in orbit meant they could deploy TIE fighters and troop transports immediately. Fall back to the Ghost, Chief ordered, his command tone leaving no room for argument. Fighting Position Alpha, that elevated platform overlooking the landing pad. Crossfire lanes on approach vectors. Move. For a split second, the crew hesitated. This was Hera's ship, Hera's command. But something about the way Chief gave orders, the absolute certainty in his tactical assessment, made them move without thinking. They ran. Chief brought up the rear, his E-11 firing control bursts at the pursuing droids. One went down, then another. The seeker droids returned fire, their blaster bolts tracking with mechanical precision. Chief's shields flared, absorbing the impacts, his HUD showing shield strength at 78%. Manageable. They reached the Ghost just as the first wave of Imperial forces appeared on the horizon. 4 troop transports escorted by a pair of TIE fighters. Chief's tactical display estimated 40 stormtroopers, possibly more. Overwhelming force for a conventional engagement. But Chief didn't do conventional. Hera, prep the Ghost for immediate dust-off, Chief said, taking position on the elevated platform Kanan had used as an observation post. Everyone else, defensive positions. We hold them here for 90 seconds, then we're gone. 90 seconds? Ezra protested. Against 40 stormtroopers? 90 seconds, Chief repeated, checking his E-11's power cell. Trust me. The stormtroopers deployed in textbook formation, advancing on the outpost with overlapping fields of fire. Professional, disciplined, exactly what Chief expected from a military dictatorship. Also exactly predictable. Chief opened fire. Chief's first shot dropped the lead stormtrooper with surgical precision. Center mass, the trooper's armor cracking under the concentrated blaster bolt. His second and third shots forced the advancing squad into cover, disrupting their formation before they could establish firing positions. His fourth shot took out a trooper trying to flank left. 4 shots, 4 targets neutralized, 0 wasted ammunition. The stormtroopers had never faced anything like this. Imperial doctrine relied on overwhelming numbers and suppressive fire. Stormtroopers were trained to advance in formation, lay down covering fire, and use superior numbers to overwhelm resistance. They were garrison troops, occupation forces, enforcers. They weren't prepared for a target that moved like liquid metal and shot with inhuman precision. Chief's HUD tracked every enemy position simultaneously. His motion tracker painted red hostile markers across his display. His targeting system calculated trajectories, predicted enemy movements based on their formation doctrine, and highlighted priority targets. The stormtroopers might as well have been standing still. Suppressing fire, left flank, Sabine called out, her blaster pistols spitting emerald bolts at advancing troopers. She fought with artistry, every shot placed with deliberate precision, using the environment as canvas and violence as paint. A trooper went down, then another. Zeb roared and opened up with his bow rifle, the weapon cycling between staff and firearm modes as he alternated between ranged shots and devastating melee strikes against troopers foolish enough to close the distance. The Lasat was a whirlwind of controlled fury, his strength allowing him to use the environment itself as a weapon, tearing chunks of corroded metal from the outpost walls and hurling them at Imperial positions. Kanan and Ezra moved as a unit, their connection through the Force making them perfectly synchronized. Ezra's blaster saber hybrid crackled as he deflected incoming fire, while Kanan advanced, his own lightsaber still unignited, but his presence in the Force disrupting enemy targeting. Stormtroopers found their shots going wide, their aim inexplicably off, as Kanan subtly influenced their perceptions. But Chief was something else entirely. He moved between positions with mechanical efficiency, never staying in one place long enough for return fire to track him. His armor's enhanced mobility let him leap between platforms that should have been impossible to reach. His shields absorbed hits that would have killed anyone else, and his accuracy was absolutely inhuman. Every shot he fired found its mark. The stormtrooper's commanding officer realized quickly they were facing something beyond their training. Heavy weapons! Bring up the... Chief's shot caught him mid-sentence. The commander went down, and the Imperial formation faltered. Without leadership, without clear orders, the stormtroopers reverted to their default programming, advance and fire. It made them predictable. Predictable meant dead. 60 seconds, Chief called out, his tone unchanged despite the chaos. His shield strength had dropped to 54%, but he'd eliminated 12 targets personally. The Ghost crew had accounted for another 8. The remaining stormtroopers were breaking formation, seeking cover, their tactical cohesion shattered. The TIE fighters screamed overhead, their twin ion engines howling like predatory birds. Green laser fire stitched across the landing pad, forcing the crew to take cover. Chief tracked the fighters on his motion tracker. Predictable attack pattern, standard strafing run. He'd faced similar threats from Banshees and Seraphs during the Covenant War. Hera, how long for engines? Chief asked, firing another burst that sent 3 troopers diving for cover. 30 seconds, came the reply from inside the Ghost. Choppers routing power to the hyperdrive. A thermal detonator arced through the air. Sabine's throw was perfect, landing directly in the center of an Imperial squad, taking cover behind their transport. The explosion sent troopers flying, the transport's hull buckling from the blast. The Mandalorian had clearly done this before. 40 seconds, Chief announced. His HUD painted new contacts approaching from the north. Reinforcements. Another squad, possibly two. The window was closing. One of the TIE fighters broke off from its strafing run, circling back for another pass. Chief tracked its trajectory, calculated lead time, accounted for velocity and angle of attack. His finger squeezed the trigger at the exact moment the fighter entered optimal firing position. The E-11 bolt struck the TIE's viewport dead center. The fighter's trajectory wavered, its pilot blinded or dead, and the craft slammed into the jungle canopy in a ball of flame. The remaining TIE pilot immediately pulled up, unwilling to risk the same fate. "Did you just shoot down a TIE fighter with a blaster rifle?" Ezra shouted, his voice somewhere between awe and disbelief. "Affirmative," Chief replied, already targeting the next threat. 30 seconds. The stormtroopers were in full retreat now, falling back to their transports. They'd lost nearly half their force in under a minute. Against 6 defenders, the tactical analysis would be damning. Whoever ordered this assault had underestimated the target capabilities by several orders of magnitude. Chief's shields were down to 31%. He'd taken 15 direct hits, any one of which would have killed an unarmored human. The Mjolnir had kept him alive, but continued engagement would be pushing tactical risk beyond acceptable parameters. 20 seconds. Fall back to the Ghost. Fighting retreat. Maintain suppression fire. The crew moved like they'd been fighting together for years instead of hours. Sabine laid down covering fire while Zeb physically carried Ezra back toward the ship, the teenager still firing his blaster over the Lasat's shoulder. Kanan moved backward with perfect balance, his lightsaber finally igniting. A brilliant blue blade that caught and deflected the few blaster bolts still tracking their position. Chief was last aboard, his E-11 firing until the ramp sealed beneath his boots. The Ghost's engines roared to life, and Hera pulled them up and away with violent acceleration that would have pulped unaugmented humans. Chief's armor compensated, his mag boots keeping him stable while the crew was thrown around the cabin. "We've got the other TIE on our tail," Hera called from the cockpit, "and the Star Destroyer is launching more fighters." Chief moved to the common area viewport, his HUD tracking the pursuing TIE fighter. The pilot was good, maintaining optimal pursuit distance, firing in controlled bursts, using the Ghost's engine wash to mask his approach. Professional, experienced, dangerous. "Rear gun turret," Chief said. "Where?" "Down the corridor. First hatch on your right," Sabine shouted. "But it takes time to—" Chief was already moving. He found the turret access, dropped into the gunner's seat, and his hands flew across the controls. The interface was primitive compared to UNSC weapon systems, but functional. His HUD linked with the turret's targeting computer, overlaying firing solutions directly onto his visor display. The TIE pilot never saw it coming. One moment he was in perfect pursuit position, the next the Ghost's rear turret swiveled with inhuman precision and opened fire. The TIE fighter exploded in a brilliant fireball, debris scattering across Gurl's upper atmosphere. Chief emerged from the turret to find the entire crew staring at him. "You've never flown with us before," Hera said slowly. "Never used our ship's systems. Never even seen our weapons. How did you—" "Pattern recognition," Chief explained. "Weapon systems follow logical design principles. Controls are standardized for efficiency. I adapted." "In under 10 seconds, Kanan added. "Spartans are trained to adapt quickly. Alternative is death." The Ghost punched through Geral's atmosphere and into the black of space. Behind them, the Imperial Star Destroyer loomed, a massive wedge of Imperial might, bristling with weapons. 4 more TIE fighters were launching from its hangar bay. "Jumping to hyperspace," Hera announced. "Hold on!" The stars stretched into lines, then collapsed into the blue-white tunnel of hyperspace. The pursuing TIE fighters fell away, unable to track them through the dimensional shift. The Ghost was safe. For now. The crew slowly relaxed, weapons lowering, combat adrenaline fading into exhausted relief. They'd survived. Against 40 stormtroopers, 2 TIE fighters, and an Imperial Star Destroyer in orbit, they'd survived. Because of the Spartan. "That was insane," Ezra said, collapsing into a seat. That was absolutely insane. We just fought our way through an entire Imperial garrison. We held defensive position for 93 seconds. Chief corrected, checking his armor's diagnostics. Shields at 15% and recharging. Power cell at 68%. E11 rifle empty. Power cell depleted. Minor damage to left shoulder actuator. All systems within acceptable parameters. Close enough to acceptable mission parameters. Acceptable? Zeb laughed, but there was respect in his voice now. You shot down a TIE fighter with a blaster rifle? You're either the luckiest bastard in the galaxy or the most dangerous. Luck is statistical anomaly, Chief replied. Spartans make their own odds through training and tactical superiority. Sabine was already reviewing footage from her helmet cam, studying Chief's movements during the firefight. Every motion was purpose-driven, every shot precisely calculated. No wasted movement, no panic, no hesitation, just pure, refined combat efficiency. Your tactics, she said, you fought like you knew exactly where every enemy would be before they got there. Motion Tracker provides real-time tactical data, combined with predictive algorithms based on enemy doctrine and observed behavior patterns. I can calculate probable enemy positions and movements with reasonable accuracy. You have computers in your armor that can predict enemy movements, Kanan said flatly. Affirmative. Mjolnir systems include tactical AI support, though my current unit lacks an integrated AI since, Chief paused, since Cortana, since the Forward Unto Dawn, since everything he'd lost, since before arriving in this galaxy. Hera emerged from the cockpit, her expression a mixture of gratitude and concern. You saved us back there. Without you, we'd have been captured or killed. So thank you. But Chief, you also painted a target on all our backs. The Empire knows we're working together now. They'll hunt us twice as hard. Tactical reality of guerrilla warfare, Chief said. Every successful operation increases enemy response intensity. The question isn't whether the Empire will escalate, but when. Better to prepare for inevitable escalation than pretend it won't happen. He's right, Kanan admitted reluctantly. We've been lucky so far. Small operations, quick hits, slip away before the Empire commits real resources. But we just embarrassed them, made them look weak. They can't let that stand. So what do we do? Ezra asked. Chief's helmet turned to face each crew member in turn. We do what soldiers always do when facing superior enemy forces. We adapt our tactics, improve our capabilities, identify strategic targets that maximize impact while minimizing risk. And we prepare for the moment when the Empire commits assets we can't overcome through conventional means. You mean the Inquisitors, Sabine said quietly. Affirmative. The Empire will escalate to force-sensitive assets within 72 hours of analyzing combat data from Gorel, possibly sooner if Callus is as competent as his tactical deployment suggests. We need to be ready. Ready how? Hera asked. We've spent years avoiding Inquisitors, not preparing to fight them. Chief moved to the holotable, pulling up the galactic map. His armor's database had been passively absorbing information since his arrival. Star charts, Imperial deployments, hyperspace routes, rebel safe houses. He was building a tactical picture of this new galaxy piece by piece. I need information, Chief said. Inquisitor combat capabilities, documented weaknesses, previous encounter data. I need weapons and equipment specifications for this galaxy's technology. I need to understand the Force's limitations and how it affects combat scenarios. And I need to know what resources are available to us. That's a tall order, Zeb rumbled. War is a tall order, Chief replied. You either prepare thoroughly or die poorly. I prefer the former. Kanan studied the Spartan with new understanding. This wasn't bravado. This wasn't recklessness. Chief was doing what he'd been trained to do since childhood, assessing threats, gathering intelligence, preparing for inevitable conflict with systematic precision. The galaxy had thrown him into an impossible situation, and his response was to treat it like any other mission. Analyze, adapt, overcome. There's someone who might help, Kanan said slowly. An old friend, Ahsoka Tano. She's a former Jedi, fought in the Clone Wars, survived Order 66. She's been coordinating rebel cells across the Outer Rim. If anyone has intelligence on Inquisitors, it's her. Can you contact her? Chief asked. We're not supposed to use direct communications. Too easy for the Empire to intercept. But she left us a dead drop location on Selos. If we go there, leave a message. She'll respond within 48 hours. Chief calculated the tactical timeline. Selos was 3 hyperspace jumps from their current position. 26 hours travel time. 48 hours maximum wait time for response. 74 hours total before potential contact with assets possessing tactical intelligence on force-sensitive combatants. The Empire would likely deploy Inquisitors within 72 hours. The margins were tight, but acceptable. Set course for Selos, Chief ordered, then caught himself. This wasn't his command. He looked at Hera. Recommendation, set course for Selos. Contact with rebel intelligence assets is our highest priority. Hera smiled slightly. The Spartan was learning. Agreed. Chopper, plot the course. We'll make the first jump in 30 minutes. Everyone get some rest. Something tells me we're not going to get much sleep once we reach Selos. The crew dispersed, each processing the day's events in their own way. They'd picked up a stray soldier from another galaxy, fought off an Imperial assault, and somehow survived. And now they were preparing to potentially fight dark-side force users with the help of a man in green armor who treated impossible odds like mathematical problems. Chief remained at the holotable, studying the galactic map. Somewhere in this vast galaxy, there might be other UNSC personnel, other fragments of the Forward Unto Dawn, other Spartans. He had to believe that, had to maintain operational focus. But deep down, in a place he rarely acknowledged, Master Chief knew the truth. He was alone in a way he'd never been before, and the war was just beginning. Selos was a wasteland, a desert planet scoured by endless winds and sandstorms, its surface dotted with the rusted hulks of ancient Clone Wars machinery. The modified ATTE Walker that served as home to 3 retired clone troopers sat on the horizon like a monument to a war most of the galaxy wanted to forget. The Ghost touched down a kilometer from the Walker, close enough to reach on foot but far enough to avoid immediate detection. Chief was first down the ramp, his boots hitting the sand with surprising lightness despite the armor's weight. His motion tracker immediately registered the massive Jupa creatures burrowing beneath the surface, indigenous predators, large enough to swallow a person whole. Hostile environment, minimal cover, poor tactical ground. Lovely place, Zeb muttered, wrapping a cloth around his snout to keep out the blowing sand. Remind me why we're here. Because Ahsoka uses the clones as a relay point, Kanan explained, raising his voice over the wind. They're off the Empire's radar. Too old, too isolated, too irrelevant to bother with. Perfect for passing messages. Chief studied the Walker through his HUD's magnification. 3 life signs inside, all human baseline. Armed but not in combat-ready posture. Elderly if his biometric scans were accurate. Heart rates consistent with advanced age. Movement patterns suggesting physical deterioration. Clone troopers, Kanan had said. Soldiers from the war that preceded the Empire. These clones, Chief said, they're reliable? Rex is, Kanan replied, and something in his tone suggested history there. He was a captain in the Grand Army of the Republic, fought alongside the Jedi for years. When Order 66 came down, when the clones were ordered to kill the Jedi, Rex resisted, removed his inhibitor chip. He's one of the few who stayed loyal. Chief filed that information away. Clone soldiers with behavioral programming that could override free will. The implications were disturbing, reminiscent of flash cloning and AI integration protocols, but far more insidious. An entire army turned against their commanders by embedded commands. And he can be trusted with my presence? Chief asked. Rex hates the Empire almost as much as we do, Ezra said. He'll help. The crew approached the Walker, and Chief maintained tactical spacing, close enough to provide support, far enough to have room to maneuver if things went hostile. His right hand rested on the E11 rifle mag-locked to his thigh. Trust but verify. Standard operational procedure. A hatch opened on the Walker's side, and a man emerged. He was older, late 50s, maybe early 60s in human years, with close-cropped white hair and a weathered face marked by old scars. He wore modified clone trooper armor, painted desert camouflage, and carried a DC-15A blaster rifle with the ease of someone who'd been holding weapons since birth. Captain Rex stopped dead when he saw Chief. His eyes widened, his grip on his rifle tightened, and for a moment Chief's threat assessment spiked. Rex's biometrics showed elevated heart rate, adrenaline spike, combat preparation. The clone captain was having a physiological reaction to Chief's presence. Kanan, Rex said slowly, never taking his eyes off Chief. What in the 9 Corellian hells is that? Long story, Kanan replied, hands held open and non-threatening. Rex, meet Master Chief. He's not from around here. Not from around here, Rex repeated, his soldier's instinct screaming warnings. He'd fought in the Clone Wars, seen every kind of droid and alien combatant the Separatists could throw at the Republic. He'd faced Sith Lords, battled through suicide missions, survived the galaxy's worst battlefields. But he'd never seen armor like that. Never seen a soldier who stood like a living weapon forged from metal and will. Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, Chief said, his mechanical voice cutting through the wind. Currently operating with the Ghost Crew. I'm not your enemy, Captain. That's what the enemy usually says, Rex replied, but he lowered his rifle slightly. Where's that armor from? What planet? What military? Another galaxy, Chief said simply. I was pulled through a dimensional anomaly during combat operations. I'm stranded here. The Empire wants my technology. The Ghost Crew is providing assistance in exchange for tactical support. Rex stared at him for a long moment, then laughed, a short, bitter sound. Another galaxy, of course. Why not? The galaxy's already been turned upside down. Might as well throw in dimensional travelers, too. He turned to Kanan. You're serious? This isn't some elaborate prank? Dead serious, Kanan confirmed. We pulled him out of an Imperial ambush on Lothal. He took down 20 stormtroopers and 2 TIE fighters in his first day here. The Empire's hunting him with everything they've got. We need to contact Ahsoka. Rex's expression shifted from suspicion to professional interest. A soldier who could do that much damage was either an asset or a catastrophic threat. Either way, he needed to be evaluated properly. Come inside. We'll talk. But the armored giant leaves his weapons out here. Negative, Chief replied immediately. I maintain armed status in unsecured environments. This is my home, Rex said, his voice hardening. My rules. You want to talk, you follow protocol. The 2 soldiers stared at each other, one aging clone who'd fought for a republic that no longer existed. One Spartan stranded in a galaxy that wasn't his own. Neither blinked, neither backed down. Both recognized something in the other, a professional warrior who'd survived by never compromising on security. Compromise, Hera interjected smoothly. Chief, you can keep your sidearm. Rex, that's as far as he's going to bend. And honestly, if he wanted to hurt us, we'd already be dead, multiple times over. Rex considered this, then nodded slowly. Fair enough. But any sudden moves and I'll drop you like a clanker. Acknowledged, Chief replied, unclipping his E-11 rifle and handing it to Sabine. His armor still contained his combat knife, his remaining ammunition, and his enhanced strength. If this went wrong, he'd adapt. The interior of the AT-TE Walker was surprisingly comfortable, converted from a military vehicle into a livable space. 2 other clone troopers were inside, Gregor, who looked at Chief with undisguised fascination, and Wolf, who kept one hand on his blaster the entire time. Brothers, Rex said, this is Master Chief. He's with the Ghost Crew. Apparently he's from another galaxy, which honestly isn't the weirdest thing we've seen this week. What was the weirdest thing? Ezra asked. Wolf tried to cook, Gregor said, grinning. The smell was definitely otherworldly. Despite the tension, Chief registered the crew dynamics. These men had fought together, survived together, grown old together. They operated as a unit despite their age, their movements still bearing the echo of military precision. Soldiers who'd outlived their war. Rex pulled up a holographic display showing the Silo system. All right, you want to contact Ahsoka. Why? What's so important you're risking Imperial attention by coming here? The Empire deployed Inquisitors to hunt Chief, Kanan explained. We need intelligence on their capabilities, their weaknesses. Ahsoka's faced them before. She survived. We need to know how. Rex's expression darkened. Inquisitors. Yeah, I've heard the stories. Dark side users hunting down the last of the Jedi. Ahsoka tangled with a couple of them about 6 months back. Said they were skilled but arrogant, relied too much on the Force, not enough on actual combat technique. That matches our assessment, Chief said. But we need specifics. Combat patterns, reaction times, preferred tactics, any documented weaknesses. Rex studied Chief with new appreciation. This wasn't just a brawler in fancy armor. This was a tactical thinker, someone who approached combat as a science. You planning to fight one? If they're hunting me, engagement is inevitable. I prefer to control the terms of engagement rather than react to enemy initiative. Smart, Rex admitted. Ahsoka left a data package with us. Intelligence she'd gathered on Inquisitor operations. I can give you a copy. But Chief, understand something. These aren't droids. They're not even regular soldiers. They can sense your intentions through the Force, move faster than your eyes can track, deflect blaster fire with their lightsabers. Standard tactics don't work. I'm aware, Chief said. I've reviewed Kanan's combat data. The Inquisitors have advantages, but they're not invincible. Every combatant has weaknesses. I just need to identify and exploit them. Wolf snorted. You talk like a droid, all logic, no emotion. Emotion compromises tactical decision-making, Chief replied. Spartans are trained to suppress emotional responses during combat operations. Spartans, Rex repeated. That what you are? Some kind of special forces? Affirmative. Spartan 2 program. Selected at age 6, subjected to genetic augmentation at 14, trained in all forms of combat. Designated as strategic assets for high-risk operations. The temperature in the walker seemed to drop. Rex's eyes narrowed, his expression shifting from curiosity to something darker. They took you at 6, augmented you as a child? Standard Spartan 2 protocol. The program required subjects young enough for augmentation procedures to integrate with developing physiology. That's not a military program, Rex said quietly, and there was old anger in his voice. That's what the Kaminoans did to us. Created us to be soldiers, gave us no choice, sent us to die in a war we didn't understand. You're saying your people did the same thing? Chief was silent for a moment. He'd never questioned the Spartan program, never allowed himself to think about what had been taken from him, his childhood, his choice, his humanity. The program had saved humanity from the insurrection, then from the Covenant. The ends justified the means, didn't they? The program was necessary, Chief said finally. Humanity was facing extinction. The Spartan program created soldiers capable of turning the tide of impossible wars. That's what they told us too, Wolf muttered, that we were necessary, that the Republic needed us. Then the war ended, and we became inconvenient. Most of our brothers are dead or enslaved by the Empire. Tell me that was necessary. Chief had no response. For the first time since arriving in this galaxy, he felt something uncomfortable twisting in his chest. These clone troopers, they were him. Soldiers created for war, stripped of choice, told their sacrifice mattered, and in the end, discarded when they were no longer useful. The difference, Gregor said quietly, breaking the tension, is that you're here by choice now. Rex told me about Order 66, about the chip in our heads that made us kill the Jedi. But after Rex removed his chip, every choice was his own. You're here, helping these people, fighting the Empire. That's your choice. That means something. Chief processed this. The clone was right. He'd made the choice to assist the Ghost Crew, made the choice to stand against the Empire. No orders from Oni, no mission parameters from Fleet Command, just his own tactical assessment in his own decision. It was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. Ahsoka's data is on this drive, Rex said, handing Chief a small cylindrical device. Everything she's gathered on Inquisitor tactics, combat capabilities, known identities. Study it, learn from it. But Chief, hear me on this. Don't underestimate them. They're survivors like you. They've been fighting just as long, just as hard, and they've got the Force on their side. Chief took the drive, his armored fingers handling it with surprising delicacy. Understood, Captain. Thank you for the intelligence. Don't thank me yet, Rex said. Ahsoka also left a message. She's tracking major Imperial operations in the sector. Said something big is coming. The Empire's consolidating forces, moving Star Destroyers into positions that don't make tactical sense unless they're preparing for a major offensive. Against what? Hera asked, alarm clear in her voice. She doesn't know, but whatever it is, it's got the Empire mobilizing resources on a scale not seen since the Clone Wars. And Chief, Rex looked at the Spartan directly, she specifically mentioned reports of the Emperor's personal attention on something in the Outer Rim, something that scared the Imperial High Command badly enough to break standard operational patterns. Chief's tactical processors connected the dots immediately. Dimensional anomaly, technology beyond galactic understanding, soldier with capabilities that defied Imperial doctrine. The Emperor's interest. They weren't hunting him just for his armor. They were hunting him because he terrified them. How long until Ahsoka can make contact? Chief asked. She's deep in Imperial space, investigating something on Malachor. Could be a week. Could be longer. Rex hesitated. Look, I don't know you. Don't know if I trust you. But the crew of the Ghost are good people. They're fighting the good fight, trying to protect those who can't protect themselves. If you're really on their side, then do right by them. Don't get them killed chasing ghosts from another galaxy. Negative, Chief said firmly. My mission is survival and intelligence gathering until extraction or alternative solution presents itself. But I don't abandon allies in combat. The Ghost crew has provided assistance. I will provide equivalent support. That's not negotiable. Rex smiled slightly, the first genuine smile since they'd arrived. You're all right, Chief. Bit stiff, lot scary, but your heart's in the right place. Even if you talk like a tactical droid. Tactical droids are insufficient compared to human strategic thinking, Chief replied. I am not a droid. He made a joke, Ezra whispered to Sabine. Did the super soldier just make a joke? I don't think he knows he made a joke, Sabine whispered back. The crew spent another hour with the clone troopers, exchanging information and supplies. Rex provided updated intelligence on Imperial fleet movements. Gregor shared rumors of weapons shipments being redirected to unknown locations. Wolf, despite his initial hostility, gave Chief a cache of power cells and thermal detonators, just in case your fancy armor runs into something it can't handle. As the Ghost prepared to depart, Rex pulled Chief aside. One more thing. Ahsoka said if anyone showed up asking about Inquisitors, I should tell them this. The Force isn't everything. The Inquisitors believe it is. They've spent so long using the Force as a crutch that they've forgotten how to fight like soldiers. You want to beat them? Stop thinking of them as mystical warriors. Think of them as opponents with enhanced reflexes and energy weapons. Then fight them like you'd fight any enhanced combatant. Chief nodded slowly. Treat them as comparable to Spartan-level opponents. Enhanced, but not invincible. Exactly. And Chief? Rex's eyes were serious. When you do fight them, and you will, remember that they're not just warriors. They're people the Empire broke and remade into weapons. Some of them were Jedi once. Some were just Force-sensitive kids who never had a choice. If you can capture instead of kill, do it. Give them a chance at redemption. I'm a soldier, not an executioner, Chief said. I eliminate threats, but I don't kill unnecessarily. Good, Rex said. Then you're better than the Empire already. The Ghost lifted off from Selos, leaving the 3 clone troopers to their exile in the desert. Inside the ship, Chief plugged Ahsoka's data drive into the holotable, his armor systems interfacing with the technology and beginning analysis. Inquisitor combat profiles filled the display. Grand Inquisitor, deceased. 5th brother and 7th sister. Active, hunting in pairs. Preferred targets are isolated Force sensitives. 8th brother. Recently deployed, aggressive tactics. Various others, each with detailed combat analyses from Ahsoka's observations. Chief absorbed it all, his tactical mind processing every detail. The Inquisitors weren't as invincible as their reputations suggested. They were skilled, yes. Enhanced through the Force, certainly. But they had patterns. Predictable tactics. Exploitable weaknesses. They relied on the Force to sense danger. But they couldn't sense him. They relied on intimidation. But Chief had fought the Flood without flinching. They relied on lightsabers to deflect blaster fire. but Chief didn't plan to rely solely on blasters. Finding anything useful? Kanan asked, watching Chief work. Affirmative. The Inquisitors have combat doctrine that prioritizes force superiority over tactical flexibility. They engage force sensitives directly, using precognition to counterattacks. Against non-force sensitives, they rely on intimidation and superior speed. Their weakness is overconfidence derived from years of hunting, frightened survivors. So how do we exploit that? Chief looked up from the holotable, his golden visor reflecting the combat data. We don't run. We don't hide. We make them come to us on ground of our choosing. And when they arrive expecting another terrified Jedi, Chief's armored fist clenched. They'll find a Spartan instead. The abandoned mining facility on Arta II was perfect. Hera had found it in the Rebel Network's database, a former separatist installation left to rot after the Clone Wars, too remote for the Empire to bother occupying, too damaged to be worth salvaging. Miles of corridors, multiple levels, structural instability that made orbital bombardment impossible without collapsing the entire facility. Perfect for an ambush. Chief stood in the facility's central control room, studying the three-dimensional tactical map his armor's sensors had constructed. 2 weeks had passed since Sealos, 2 weeks of preparation, reconnaissance, and careful planning. The Ghost crew had learned to trust his tactical assessments, learned to move with military precision when Chief gave orders during combat drills, and learned to fear the intensity with which the Spartan approached the coming battle. "You really think they'll come here?" Ezra asked, studying the map with the interest of someone still learning tactics. The kid had potential, good instincts, quick reflexes, genuine courage tempered by just enough caution to keep him alive. "They'll come," Chief replied, placing holographic markers throughout the facility. "We've spent 2 weeks creating a trail, false intelligence drops, staged operations, intercepted Imperial communications referencing this location. The Inquisitors will believe we're using this facility as a base of operations. They'll investigate." "And then?" Sabine asked, though she already knew. She'd helped Chief plan every detail of the ambush. The Mandalorian had proven to be an excellent tactical mind, creative, unconventional, willing to take calculated risks. "Then we spring the trap," Chief said simply. "Elevated positions here, here, and here." 3 markers appeared on the map. Crossfire lanes covering all approach vectors, explosive charges wired to structural supports, manual detonation, no wireless that can be detected or jammed, fallback positions in case they breach the kill zone, and secondary traps in case they bring backup. Kanan studied the plan with growing unease. It was brilliant, textbook special operations ambush, adapted for combatants with force sensitivity. But it also relied on Chief deliberately exposing himself as bait, while the rest of the crew provided fire support from concealment. "You're putting yourself in the most dangerous position," Kanan observed, "right in the center of the kill zone where they'll focus their attack." "That's the point," Chief replied. "They can't sense me through the Force. To them, I'm a blank spot. They'll approach cautiously, trying to understand the anomaly. That gives us tactical advantage. They'll be focused on me, distracted, wondering why the Force isn't providing warning. That's when you strike." "And if they're faster than we expect?" Hera asked. "If they just cut through our defenses and go straight for you?" Chief's helmet turned toward her. "Then I hold position and engage directly while you execute tactical withdrawal. My armor can withstand sustained lightsaber attacks for approximately 90 seconds based on analysis of similar plasma weapons. That's sufficient time for you to escape." "90 seconds," Zeb repeated. "You're willing to get carved up for 90 seconds just to buy us time to run?" "If necessary. The mission objective is eliminating or neutralizing Inquisitor threat. Your survival is secondary objective. My survival is tertiary objective. Standard mission prioritization." "That's the coldest thing I've ever heard," Ezra said. "That's being a soldier," Chief replied. "You don't get to choose when you die. You only get to choose what you die for." Sabine's fist slammed down on the holotable. "Nobody's dying. That's not the plan. The plan is we work together. We overwhelm them with coordinated fire, and we all walk out of here alive. Got it?" Chief was silent for a moment. Behind his visor, something that might have been surprise flickered across his face. The Ghost crew wasn't like other soldiers he'd known. Marines followed orders, accepted casualties as inevitable, understood that some of them wouldn't make it home. But these rebels, they fought like family. They refused to accept loss as acceptable. It was inefficient from a tactical standpoint. It was also deeply human. Understood, Chief said finally. Revised objective. All personnel extract alive. I'll adjust the tactical plan. Over the next 6 hours, Chief modified his ambush plan 17 times. Each iteration refined, each calculation adjusted to maximize crew survival probability while maintaining mission effectiveness. Sabine and Kanan provided input based on their experience. Hera contributed escape route analysis. Even Ezra suggested using the Force to collapse specific corridors, creating obstacles that would funnel the Inquisitors into predetermined kill zones. By the time they finished, the plan was as close to perfect as Chief could make it. The facility had been transformed into a death trap, every corridor monitored, every angle covered. If the Inquisitors came, they'd be walking into a tactical nightmare designed by someone who'd spent 3 decades perfecting the art of asymmetric warfare. Now we wait, Hera said, settling into the command position Chief had designated for her. From here, she could coordinate the entire operation, monitor all crew positions, and execute the evacuation protocol if things went wrong. Waiting was always the hardest part. Chief took his position in the central chamber, a massive open space where ore processing equipment once stood. Now empty except for the massive support pillars holding up thousands of tons of rock. His motion tracker painted the facility in 3 dimensions, tracking his crew's positions. Sabine on the upper level, 20 meters up with clear sight lines and thermal detonators. Kanan and Ezra in the eastern corridor, ready to collapse the tunnel mouth on his signal. Zeb in the western approach, his bow rifle providing heavy fire support. Hera in the command center with Chopper, monitoring all communications and ready to call evacuation if necessary. Chief checked his equipment for the 20th time. 2 E-11 rifles, fully charged. His combat knife, secured and ready. His MA-5D loaded with the last 32 rounds of 7.62 meters ammunition, useless for sustained combat, but those rounds might make the difference when it counted. His shields at full capacity, armor systems optimal, motion tracker calibrated and active. He was ready. Chief, Kanan's voice crackled over the comm, I need to ask you something. When the Inquisitors arrive, when they see you standing there, they're going to feel it. The void where you should be. It's going to unnerve them, maybe make them hesitate, but it might also make them desperate. Desperate opponents do unpredictable things. Acknowledge, Chief replied. Unpredictability is acceptable. We've planned for multiple contingencies. That's not what I mean, Kanan paused. I mean, are you ready to kill someone who can sense your intent before you act? Someone who can throw you across a room without touching you? Someone who's been fighting since you were... He stopped. How old did you say you were when they augmented you? 14. Some of these Inquisitors, they were taken as children too. Broken. Remade into weapons. Just like you. Chief's hand tightened on his rifle. The difference is I chose to be here. I chose this fight. If they chose to serve the Empire, to hunt innocents, then they made their choice too. And if they didn't choose, if they were forced, corrupted, brainwashed, then I'll give them one chance to surrender. Chief's voice was flat, certain. One chance. If they refuse, I eliminate the threat. That's not murder, Kanan. That's combat. There's a difference. Before Kanan could respond, Chief's motion tracker lit up. Contact. Multiple signatures. Approaching from the north entrance, the one they'd deliberately left unsealed, the obvious entry point for anyone investigating the facility. They're here, Chief announced calmly. All units, radio silence. Execute plan on my signal. The facility fell silent. Even the ambient sounds of the failing structure, dripping water, settling rock, wind through broken ventilation shafts, seemed to fade. The Ghost crew held position, weapons ready, hearts pounding. They drilled for this, prepared for this. But knowing the Inquisitors were actually coming made it real in a way that plans and preparation never could. Chief's motion tracker showed 3 contacts, moving slowly, methodically, sweeping each corridor before advancing. professional caution. These weren't overconfident fools rushing into obvious danger. These were experienced hunters who'd survived by being paranoid. Fifth brother, seventh sister, eighth brother. Chief had studied their profiles. Fifth brother, massive, brutish, relied on strength and intimidation. Seventh sister, cunning, analytical, preferred psychological warfare. Eighth brother, recently promoted, aggressive but inexperienced, eager to prove himself. They'd worked together before, their tactics documented in Ahsoka's intelligence files. The three Inquisitors entered the central chamber. They were exactly as Chief expected. Figures in dark armor, their double-bladed lightsabers hanging from their belts, their presence radiating menace. Fifth brother was enormous, his species' natural bulk enhanced by dark armor plating. Seventh sister moved with predatory grace, her eyes scanning constantly, missing nothing. Eighth brother was smaller, younger, his movements carrying the nervous energy of someone unused to his own power. And they stopped dead when they saw Chief. "Well," seventh sister said, her voice smooth and dangerous, "this is unexpected." Chief stood motionless in the center of the chamber, his golden visor reflecting the dim emergency lighting. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there, a statue of green armor and implied violence. His motion tracker showed the Inquisitors' confusion. They were reaching out with the Force, trying to sense his presence, his intentions, his very existence, and finding nothing. "I can't sense him," eighth brother said, his voice betraying uncertainty. "It's like he's not even there." "He's there," fifth brother rumbled. "I can see him, but the Force, there's nothing, just empty space where he should be." Seventh sister's eyes narrowed. "You're the one, the anomaly from Lothal. The Empire's been looking for you." She took a step forward, her hand moving to her lightsaber. "I can sense others here, Force sensitives hiding in the shadows, thinking they're clever, but you're something else entirely." Chief's helmet tilted slightly. "You're Inquisitors, Force-sensitive hunters employed by the Galactic Empire to eliminate surviving Jedi. You've been assigned to capture or kill me." It wasn't a question, it was tactical assessment delivered as fact. "Perceptive," Seventh Sister said. "But you're wrong about one thing. We're not here to kill you. The Emperor wants you alive. He wants to understand what you are, how you exist outside the Force. That armor, that technology, it's worth more than your life." "Then you have a problem," Chief replied calmly, "because I'm not surrendering. And my allies aren't letting you leave alive." The Inquisitors ignited their lightsabers in perfect synchronization. The spinning double blades filled the chamber with crimson light and the distinctive snap hiss of contained plasma. The sound echoed off the walls, a promise of violence about to unfold. "Your allies are already dead," Fifth Brother said. "They just don't know it yet." "Negative," Chief replied. "Signal." The word was barely out of his mouth when the facility erupted. Sabine's thermal detonators detonated in perfect sequence, blowing out support structures and collapsing sections of the upper level directly onto the Inquisitor's position. Tons of rock and metal crashed down, filling the chamber with dust and debris. Simultaneously, Kanan and Ezra released their force hold on the weakened eastern corridor, bringing down another cascade of rubble that cut off the Inquisitor's retreat. The Fifth Brother roared, his lightsaber spinning in a defensive pattern that shattered falling debris. Seventh Sister leapt impossibly high, using the Force to propel herself above the collapsing structure. Eighth Brother wasn't as skilled. A massive chunk of ceiling caught him mid-dodge, sending him sprawling. Chief didn't wait for the dust to settle. He fired. His E-11 barked in controlled 3-round bursts, each burst aimed with perfect precision at the Eighth Brother's exposed position. The Inquisitor's lightsaber came up, deflecting the first burst, but Chief had already adjusted, firing at angles that made deflection trajectories unpredictable, forcing the Inquisitor to divide his attention between defense and dodging. Seb opened up from the western corridor, his bow rifle's heavy shots adding another attack vector. Fifth Brother turned to face the new threat, his massive lightsaber spinning like a shield. But the moment his attention shifted, Sabine dropped from her elevated position, firing her pistols with artistic precision while lobbing another thermal detonator into the fifth brother's path. The explosion sent the massive Inquisitor staggering. His armor absorbed most of the blast, but the shockwave disrupted his balance. Chief was already moving, closing distance with inhuman speed, his combat knife in hand. 70 centimeters of titanium carbide alloy, designed to punch through Covenant armor plating. Fifth brother brought his lightsaber around in a devastating arc. The spinning blade met Chief's energy shields with a shower of sparks. The shields held, barely. Chief's HUD showed shield strength dropping from 100% to 73% in a single hit. Lightsabers were more powerful than he'd calculated. He adjusted his tactical assessment immediately. Avoid direct lightsaber contact. Shields won't sustain repeated hits. Chief rolled under the next strike, came up inside Fifth Brother's guard, and drove his combat knife toward the Inquisitor's exposed throat. Fifth Brother blocked with his gauntleted forearm. The impact would have shattered a normal human's bones, but Chief's augmented strength was beyond human. The knife punched through the armor, drawing blood. First blood. Chief had hurt an Inquisitor. The realization changed everything. "He's just a soldier," Eighth Brother shouted, scrambling to his feet. "No force, no power, just armor and weapons." "Then we take his armor," Seventh Sister hissed, and suddenly she was behind Chief, her lightsaber stabbing toward his back with force-enhanced speed. Chief's motion tracker screamed warning. He twisted, his armor's enhanced mobility barely keeping him ahead of the plasma blade. The lightsaber carved through his shields, scorching the armor plating beneath. His HUD registered damage, minor but accumulating. He couldn't win this close quarters. Chief triggered his thrusters, emergency jump jets built into the Mjolnir armor's back, designed for low-gravity environments but functional in standard gravity. He launched backward 15 meters, putting distance between himself and the Inquisitors while his shields recharged. "Now!" he barked into the comm. Kanan and Ezra emerged from their position, lightsabers blazing blue and green. The Inquisitors immediately shifted tactics, their attention divided between Chief's ranged assault and the Jedi engaging them directly. This was the plan. Keep them off balance, never let them focus, exploit the fact that Chief was invisible to their Force senses, while Kanan and Ezra were not. The chamber became a maelstrom of violence. Lightsabers clashed, creating strobing patterns of light and shadow. Blaster fire filled the air, forcing constant movement. Thermal detonators exploded in carefully calculated positions. Chief moved through it all like a ghost, his armor's sensors providing perfect tactical awareness, his augmented reflexes turning him into something between human and machine. But the Inquisitors were adapting. Seventh Sister broke off from Kanan. Using the Force to hurl chunks of debris at Chief's position, he dodged, but each dodge took him further from optimal firing position. Fifth Brother focused entirely on Ezra, overwhelming the young Jedi with brutal strength. Eighth Brother, injured but still dangerous, began using the Force to collapse additional sections of ceiling. If he couldn't win the fight, he'd bury them all. "This isn't working," Ezra shouted, barely deflecting another of Fifth Brother's crushing strikes. "They're too strong." Chief analyzed the tactical situation in milliseconds. The Inquisitors were indeed adapting faster than projected. They'd learned Chief couldn't be sensed, so they were tracking him through sound and visual observation. They'd learned his shields could be overwhelmed, so they were focusing sustained attacks. They'd learned the crew was coordinated, so they were working to divide and isolate each member. Time for contingency plan. "Fall back," Chief ordered. "Execute retreat protocol Theta." The crew immediately disengaged, each member falling back to predetermined positions. The Inquisitors pursued, exactly as Chief had calculated. They'd been trained to never let prey escape, to press advantage, to show no mercy. They'd been trained wrong. The crew reached their fallback positions, and Chief triggered the charges. The entire western section of the facility exploded. Not just charges on support pillars, Chief had wired every structural weakness, every stress point, every vulnerability he'd identified during reconnaissance. Tons of rock, metal, and ancient mining equipment came crashing down, separating the Inquisitors from each other. Cutting off escape routes, transforming the battlefield into a maze of debris and chaos. In the confusion, Chief moved. He found Eighth Brother isolated in a collapsed corridor, struggling to lift debris with the force. The Inquisitor sensed movement too late. Chief was already on him, his armor's enhanced strength allowing him to move with terrifying speed. His combat knife flashed once. Eighth Brother's lightsaber fell from nerveless fingers, his hand severed at the wrist. The Inquisitor screamed, pain, rage, disbelief that someone without the Force could hurt him. Chief didn't hesitate. His armored fist connected with the Inquisitor's helmet, and Eighth Brother collapsed, unconscious but alive. One down, two to go. Chief! Sabine's voice cracked over the comm. Fifth Brother's got Kanan pinned. We need... The transmission cut off in static. Chief's motion tracker showed Sabine's signature flickering, then stabilizing. Seventh Sister was jamming communications, isolating targets, using classic hunter tactics. Chief ran. He found Kanan 3 corridors away, barely holding off Fifth Brother's assault. The Jedi's face was bloodied, his movement slowing. Fifth Brother was laughing, enjoying the kill, taking his time. He never saw Chief coming. Chief's last 32 rounds of UNSC ammunition barked from his MA5D. The armor-piercing rounds weren't deflected by Fifth Brother's lightsaber because the Inquisitor wasn't expecting them. He'd been focused on Kanan, on the Force user he could sense. The rounds punched through his back armor, and the massive Inquisitor went down roaring in pain and fury. Not dead, but out of the fight. "Where's Seventh Sister?" Chief demanded, helping Kanan to his feet. "Don't know, she vanished. She's hunting us now, picking us off one by..." Chief's motion tracker pinged. Behind them. Above them. Falling fast. Seventh Sister dropped from the ceiling, her lightsaber aimed directly at Chief's back. At this range, with this precision, his shields wouldn't matter. The plasma blade would punch through armor and flesh, killing him instantly. Time seemed to slow. Chief's augmented reflexes kicked in, his perception shifting into the combat acceleration that had saved his life countless times. He couldn't dodge, couldn't block, couldn't win, but he didn't have to. A blast of Force energy hit Seventh Sister mid-fall, slamming her into the wall with bone-breaking force. Ezra stood at the corridor's entrance, his hand outstretched, his face set with determination. The kid had come back, had risked himself to save Chief. Seventh Sister recovered fast, but not fast enough. Kanan's lightsaber was already there, knocking her weapon aside. Chief's armored fist followed, a calculated strike to her temple. The Inquisitor dropped like a stone. The facility fell silent except for the crew's labored breathing and the distant groans of settling debris. "Is it over?" Ezra asked, his voice shaking. Chief checked his motion tracker. 3 contacts, all unconscious. The rest of the crew converging on their position. No additional threats detected. "Affirmative," Chief said. "Target neutralized. All personnel accounted for. Mission successful." "We won," Sabine said, disbelief clear in her voice. "We actually beat 3 Inquisitors." "Negative," Chief corrected. "We survived engagement with 3 Inquisitors and captured them alive. That's not the same as winning." "Close enough for me," Zeb rumbled, nursing a gash across his arm. Hera arrived with Chopper, surveying the destruction with wide eyes. "We need to move. Fast. The facility's structural integrity is completely compromised. We've got maybe 10 minutes before this whole place comes down." "What about them?" Kanan asked, gesturing to the unconscious Inquisitors. Chief looked at the 3 fallen Darkside users. Rex's words echoed in his memory. "If you can capture instead of kill, do it. Give them a chance at redemption." "We take them," Chief said. "Bind them, suppress their Force abilities if possible, and transport them to Rebel Command. They have intelligence value. And they deserve a chance to choose differently." "You're serious?" Ezra said. "After they tried to kill us?" "They're soldiers following orders," Chief replied. "Just like I was. Just like the clones were. Everyone deserves a chance to be more than what they were made to be." The crew stared at him. This Spartan from another galaxy, this living weapon who talked about mercy and second chances while standing amid the wreckage of a brutal battle. "All right," Hera said finally. "Let's get them aboard. But if any of them wake up and try anything..." "I'll handle it," Chief said simply. They extracted the Inquisitors, secured them aboard the Ghost, and escaped the facility 17 seconds before it collapsed entirely. As they jumped to hyperspace, Chief stood in the cargo bay, watching the three unconscious Force users who'd been so certain of their superiority. They'd learned today that the Force wasn't everything, and Master Chief had learned something too. In this galaxy, sometimes the greatest victory wasn't destroying your enemies. It was proving they could be something else. The rebel base on Atalan was more substantial than Chief expected. A network of prefabricated structures hidden in the canyons, protected by sensor jammers and defensive emplacements. Not UNSC standard, but respectable for an insurgent operation. The base housed approximately 200 personnel, pilots, technicians, soldiers, intelligence operatives. An actual military structure, not just scattered cells operating independently. Commander Jun Sato stood at the landing pad as the Ghost touched down, his weathered face betraying no emotion as Chief descended the ramp with three unconscious Inquisitors on repulsor sleds. Behind Sato stood Mon Mothma herself, the titular leader of the growing rebellion, a woman whose calm demeanor disguised steel will. Chief had reviewed her profile during the journey. Former senator, architect of the rebellion's political structure, skilled diplomat who'd turned scattered resistance cells into something resembling an actual military force. Captain Syndulla, Sato said formally, your report mentioned prisoners, but I confess I didn't expect. He gestured at the Inquisitors. This. Commander, Hera replied, snapping a respectful salute. Mission accomplished. 3 Inquisitors captured alive. Minimal casualties on our side. The facility was destroyed to prevent Imperial recovery of intelligence we'd staged there. Mon Mothma's eyes shifted to Chief, studying him with analytical precision. And this is the soldier Agent Kallus has turned the Outer Rim upside down searching for. Master Chief, I believe? Chief stood at attention. Old habits. Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, currently operating independently due to dimensional displacement from home galaxy. I've been providing tactical support to the Ghost crew in exchange for intelligence and resources. Dimensional displacement, Mon Mothma repeated, and something in her voice suggested she'd already heard the full story from multiple intelligence sources. Commander Sato, please have medical teams secure our prisoners. Use force suppression restraints and maintain armed guards at all times. I want them isolated, monitored, and under no circumstances allowed contact with each other. As the Inquisitors were taken away, Mon Mothma gestured toward the command center. Walk with me, Chief. We have much to discuss. The command center was impressive. Holographic displays showing Imperial fleet positions, rebel cell locations, supply routes, and intelligence reports. Dozens of personnel worked with focused efficiency, coordinating operations across multiple sectors. This wasn't amateur insurgency. This was the foundation of something that could actually challenge the Empire. The Ghost crew speaks highly of you, Mon Mothma said, standing before the central holodisplay. Captain Syndulla says you're the most tactically proficient soldier she's ever worked with. Kanan Jarrus says you fight like someone who's been at war their entire life. And young Ezra Bridger says, and I quote, he's terrifying but in a good way. Ezra tends toward hyperbole, Chief replied, but his assessment is essentially accurate. I have been at war my entire life. 39 years subjective time, combat operations beginning at age 14. Mon Mothma's expression didn't change, but Chief registered the subtle shift in her biometrics. Elevated heart rate, pupils slightly dilated. She was disturbed by that information but controlling her reaction. 25 years of combat, few soldiers survive that long. Fewer still remain functional. Spartans are designed for extended combat operations. Psychological conditioning prevents degradation from prolonged warfare exposure. Psychological conditioning, Mon Mothma said quietly. What a clinical term for what must have been a brutal process. She turned to face him directly. Chief, I'm going to be honest with you. Your presence here creates complications. The Empire is escalating their operations in the Outer Rim specifically to find you. They've pulled resources from 3 sectors. They've authorized Moff Tarkin to use any means necessary. They're terrified of you, or more accurately, terrified of what you represent. Technology beyond their understanding, Chief said, a soldier they can't predict or control, evidence that their galactic supremacy isn't absolute. Exactly. Which means as long as you're operating in this galaxy, you're a magnet for Imperial attention. Every operation you participate in carries increased risk. Every rebel cell you contact becomes a target. Mon Mothma paused. Some of my advisors think you're too dangerous to associate with, that we should politely decline your assistance and let you find your own way. Chief's posture didn't change, but his threat assessment protocols activated automatically. If the rebellion decided he was a liability, they'd try to neutralize him, either through diplomatic isolation or more direct means. Neither option was acceptable. "And what do you think?" Chief asked. Mon Mothma smiled slightly. "I think you just captured 3 Inquisitors alive when most rebel cells would have died trying to escape one. I think you've provided the Ghost Crew with tactical capabilities that have made them twice as effective. I think you represent an opportunity we can't afford to ignore." She pulled up a new display, Imperial military deployments across the galaxy. The Empire is building something. We don't know what. Construction sites scattered across a dozen systems, all heavily guarded, all classified at the highest levels. Moff Tarkin is personally overseeing the project, and our intelligence suggests it's a weapons platform of unprecedented scale. Chief studied the data. The construction patterns suggested a mobile battle station, massive resource allocation, exotic materials, energy requirements that exceeded planetary defense platforms by orders of magnitude. His tactical database searched for comparable UNSC projects and found nothing. This was beyond anything he'd encountered. "Estimated timeline to completion?" Chief asked. 18 months. Maybe less if they've been working on it longer than we know. Tactical assessment. Whatever they're building, it's designed to end the war. The Empire wouldn't commit these resources unless the project guaranteed absolute military supremacy. "That's our assessment as well," Mon Mothma confirmed. "Which brings me to why I wanted to speak with you. We need intelligence on this project. Real intelligence, not rumors and sensor readings. We need someone who can infiltrate Imperial facilities, extract data, and escape before the Empire realizes what happened." "You want me to conduct reconnaissance operations?" Chief said. It wasn't a question. "I want you to do what you do best. The Empire thinks you're a blunt instrument, all firepower and armor. They're preparing for you to attack, to fight, to be the obvious threat. They're not prepared for a Spartan operating as an intelligence operative." Chief considered this. Deep reconnaissance behind enemy lines. Infiltration and extraction. It aligned with Spartan training. They were designed for surgical strikes and high-value target elimination, not just frontline combat. The mission parameters were acceptable. "Requirements," Chief said. "Updated intelligence on Imperial security protocols, access to Rebel intelligence network, authorization to operate independently within mission parameters, and extraction protocols if operations are compromised." "All acceptable," Mon Mothma replied. "But Chief, understand something. This isn't your war. You don't owe us anything. You could take a ship, disappear into the unknown regions, try to find a way home. No one would blame you. So why are you offering to help?" Chief was silent for a long moment. Behind his visor, he thought about Dr. Halsey's words, about Johnson's sacrifice, about Cortana's final moments, about every Marine who'd fought beside him, every civilian he'd protected, every world he'd failed to save. "Because standing by while people suffer is unacceptable," Chief said finally. "Because soldiers who have the capacity to fight and choose not to are complicit in whatever atrocities follow. Because the Empire represents everything the UNSC fought against: tyranny, oppression, the elimination of freedom in the name of order." He paused. "And because I've spent 39 years fighting for humanity's survival. Your rebellion is fighting for the same thing. Different galaxy, same war." Mon Mothma's expression softened slightly. "Then welcome to the rebellion, Master Chief. Officially this time, though I suspect you're going to make my job significantly more complicated." "Affirmative," Chief replied. "Superior firepower and tactical efficiency tend to complicate political situations." Was that a joke? Mon Mothma couldn't quite tell. The Spartan's mechanical tone made it impossible to read emotion. but she thought she detected the faintest hint of dry humor beneath the words. Over the next 48 hours, Chief integrated into the rebel command structure. He reviewed intelligence reports, analyzed Imperial tactical doctrine, and identified high-value targets for reconnaissance operations. He worked with the base's armor to modify his equipment, adapting UNSC ammunition manufacturing techniques to rebel resources, integrating their power cell technology with his armor systems, and developing countermeasures for Imperial sensors. He also spent time with the captured Inquisitors. Eighth Brother woke first. The young Inquisitor thrashed against his restraints, his force abilities suppressed by the ysalamiri creatures positioned around his cell, creatures whose presence created force null bubbles, making force manipulation impossible. "Where am I?" Eighth Brother demanded. "Release me immediately or the Empire will—" "The Empire doesn't know where you are," Chief said, standing outside the containment field. "You've been captured by rebel forces. Your fellow Inquisitors are in similar confinement. The Empire likely assumes you're dead." Eighth Brother's eyes widened behind his mask. You're the Void, the one we hunted." "Affirmative, Master Chief Petty Officer John 117. You tried to kill me and my allies. You failed. Now you're a prisoner of war." "There is no war," Eighth Brother spat. "There's only the Empire and those too weak or stupid to accept its rule. You're rebels. Terrorists. The moment the Emperor learns I'm alive, he'll send the entire Imperial fleet to recover me." "Unlikely," Chief replied. "The Emperor can't afford to reveal how easily 3 Inquisitors were captured. It would undermine the Inquisitorius' reputation as unstoppable hunters. More likely, he'll write you off as acceptable losses and deploy replacements." The words hit Eighth Brother like physical blows. Chief could see the realization dawning in the Inquisitor's eyes. He was expendable. The Empire he served, the cause he fought for, would abandon him without hesitation. "You're lying," Eighth Brother said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I'm stating tactical reality," Chief corrected. "You're a tool. Tools that break get replaced, not repaired. The Empire taught you that. They teach it to everyone who serves them. And the rebellion is different?" Eighth Brother laughed bitterly. "They'll execute me. Make an example. Show the galaxy what happens to those who serve the Empire." "Negative," Chief said. "The rebellion is offering you a choice. Continue serving an empire that views you as disposable, or provide intelligence on Imperial operations in exchange for protection and the opportunity to choose your own path." "That's not a choice, that's treason." "That's survival," Chief replied. "I've seen soldiers face this decision before. Some choose loyalty to a cause that doesn't deserve it. They die believing their sacrifice mattered. Others choose to survive, to fight for something that actually values their lives. The second group tends to live longer." Chief turned to leave. "Wait," Eighth Brother called out. What happens to me if I refuse?" "You remain imprisoned until the war ends or until you're no longer valuable as a prisoner. Standard POW protocols. You'll be treated humanely, fed adequately, and given basic medical care. But you'll spend the rest of your life in a cell, knowing you could have chosen differently." Chief walked away, leaving Eighth Brother alone with his thoughts. Over the following days, Chief repeated similar conversations with Fifth Brother and Seventh Sister. Fifth Brother remained defiant, insisting the Empire would crush the rebellion and rescue him. Seventh Sister was more pragmatic. She asked questions, probed for weaknesses, tried to understand Chief's motivations. Neither agreed to cooperate, not yet, but Chief had planted seeds, given them time to think, to question, to realize the Empire they served didn't value their loyalty. Meanwhile, Mon Mothma had identified Chief's first reconnaissance target, an Imperial facility on Scarif. The planet was home to the Imperial Security Complex, a massive data archive containing classified information on every major Imperial project. If the mysterious weapons platform's plans existed anywhere, they'd be in Scarif's archives. "The facility is considered impenetrable," Commander Sato explained during the mission briefing. "Planetary shield, garrison of shore troopers and death troopers, automated defenses, and direct oversight by Director Krennic of the Empire's Advanced Weapons Research Division." "Death troopers?" Chief asked. "Elite Imperial Special Forces," Hera provided. Enhanced training, superior equipment, absolute loyalty. They're what stormtroopers aspire to be. I've only encountered them twice, barely survived both times. Chief studied the facility schematics. Security is designed to prevent frontal assault, but security designed for large-scale threats often overlooks infiltration by small units or individuals. Estimated guard rotations? Every 6 hours, Sabine said, pulling up the data. But Chief, even if you get inside, the data vaults are air-gapped from external networks. You'd need physical access to their systems? Acceptable, Chief replied. Mjolnir armor includes data extraction suites designed for battlefield intelligence gathering. If I can reach the terminals, I can extract the data. And how do you plan to reach the terminals? Kanan asked. Walk through the front door? Essentially, yes, Chief said. The facility processes cargo shipments daily, food, equipment, personnel transfers. We infiltrate the supply chain, I enter concealed in a cargo container, extract the data, and escape during shift rotation. That's insane, Ezra said. Even for you. That's tactics, Chief corrected. The Empire expects threats to match their escalation. They're preparing for rebel attacks, for sabotage, for conventional warfare. They're not expecting a single infiltrator using their own logistics against them. Mon Mothma studied the plan. It's risky. If you're discovered, the Empire will know the rebellion has intelligence on their security protocols. They'll change everything, and we'll be blind. If I'm discovered, I'll ensure they believe it's an independent operation. No connection to the rebellion. Standard deniable asset protocols. You mean you'll die before letting them connect you to us? Mon Mothma said quietly. If necessary, Chief confirmed, but I don't plan to be discovered. Spartans excel at infiltration. It's what we were designed for. The briefing continued for another 2 hours, refining every detail. Chief would infiltrate Scarif alone. The Ghost crew would provide extraction support, but maintain distance to preserve operational security. If things went wrong, they'd abort, and Chief would be on his own. Standard suicide mission parameters. Chief had survived worse odds. As the briefing concluded, Kanan pulled Chief aside. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. Send a team. Wait for better intelligence? Something less likely to get you killed. Negative, Chief replied. Every day we wait is another day the Empire continues construction on their weapons platform. Tactical advantage belongs to whoever acts first. Waiting is surrender disguised as caution. Kanan shook his head. You know, when we first picked you up on Lothal, I thought you were just a soldier, someone who followed orders and killed enemies. But you're more than that. You think like a soldier, but you care like someone who hasn't forgotten why they fight. Spartans never forget our mission, Chief said. Protect humanity, preserve freedom, eliminate threats to both. The details change. The mission doesn't. Even in another galaxy. Especially in another galaxy, Chief replied. Because if I stop fighting, if I decide their war isn't mine, then what was the point of everything I sacrificed? What did Johnson die for? What did Cortana give up? If I can help here, now, in this fight, he paused, then maybe all those sacrifices meant something. Kanan placed a hand on Chief's armored shoulder. They meant something. You meant something. And you're going to survive this mission because we need you. The rebellion needs you. Hell, this whole galaxy might need you before this is over. Chief's helmet turned toward Kanan. I'll complete the mission. I always do. As Chief prepared for Scarif, he made one final stop. The detention area, where 3 Inquisitors remained imprisoned. Seventh Sister was awake, watching as he approached. Come to gloat? She asked. To remind me how the mighty Inquisitorius was defeated by a single soldier? Negative, Chief said. I came to tell you that in 3 days, I'm going on a mission. High probability of failure. If I don't return, the rebellion will likely execute you all as retaliation. But if I do return, and if you've chosen to cooperate, you'll be given a chance to prove your defection is genuine. Why are you telling me this? Because everyone deserves to know when their time is running out, Chief replied, and because I've been where you are. Fighting for a cause I didn't choose, following orders I didn't question, believing my sacrifice mattered to people who viewed me as expendable. The difference is someone gave me a chance to be more than a weapon. I'm offering you the same chance. And if we refuse, Then you die in a cell, alone, forgotten by the empire you served and executed by the rebellion you fought. That's the truth. What you do with it is your choice. Chief walked away, leaving Seventh Sister staring after him. In 72 hours, he'd be infiltrating the most secure Imperial facility in the galaxy. Alone. Unarmed except for his knife and his mind. Against an entire garrison of Empire's elite forces. Standard Tuesday for a Spartan. The cargo container smelled like rotting rations and recycled air. Chief had been sealed inside for 6 hours, his armor's life support filtering the stench while his motion tracker painted a three-dimensional map of the cargo ship's interior. 42 crew members. Standard Imperial transport configuration. No indication they suspected their cargo manifest included anything beyond medical supplies and food shipments for Scarif's garrison. His armor's active camouflage would have been useful here, but the technology had failed during the dimensional transition. Chief had checked and rechecked, some incompatibility between his armor systems and this galaxy's physics. The camouflage generators registered as functional, but when activated, they produced only flickering distortions, insufficient for infiltration work. So Chief relied on more traditional methods: timing, patience, and the arrogance of an empire that believed itself invincible. The transport shuddered as it entered Scarif's atmosphere. Chief's HUD displayed the countdown: 14 minutes until landing, 3 minutes for unloading procedures, 5-minute window for extraction from the container before it was processed and potentially discovered. Tight margins, but manageable. The ship touched down with a hydraulic hiss. Chief heard the cargo bay doors opening, heard the mechanical whir of repulsor sleds moving containers. His container shifted, lifted, moved. Through his motion tracker, he watched the facility's layout resolve in real time. Guard positions, patrol patterns, security checkpoints. Every data point feeding into his tactical assessment. The container was placed in a storage area. Chief waited, counted, calculated. The cargo workers moved on to the next container. The immediate area showed 3 signatures: 2 workers, 1 guard. Acceptable odds. Chief activated his armor's hydraulic release. The container's side panel blew outward with controlled force. Not an explosion, just enough pressure to break the seals. He emerged in a fluid motion, his combat knife already in hand. The 2 workers never saw him. Chief moved behind them, struck precisely at nerve clusters in their necks. Both dropped unconscious without a sound. The guard turned, raising his blaster, but Chief was already inside his guard. The knife pommel struck the guard's temple. Calculated force, enough to incapacitate without killing. The guard collapsed. Chief dragged all 3 bodies into the container, sealed it, and moved deeper into the facility. His armor had been painted matte black for this operation. No reflective surfaces, no identifiable markings. In the dim emergency lighting of the storage areas, he was nearly invisible. Section 7 secure, a voice crackled over facility-wide comms. Rotation in 30 minutes. Shore troopers to positions. Chief's translator suite fed him the information. Shift change. Perfect. During transitions, security was always weakest. Guards focused on handing off responsibilities. New guards getting oriented. Brief moments of confusion. Military installations were supposed to maintain security during rotations, but Chief had fought enough wars to know theory and practice diverged when humans got tired, bored, or complacent. He moved through the facility like a ghost. Maintenance corridors, ventilation shafts, cargo tunnels. All the spaces security planners forgot about because they were focused on defending against armies, not individuals. Chief had studied the schematics for 48 hours straight. He knew every corridor, every junction, every blind spot in the sensor coverage. 2 shore troopers patrolled ahead, distinctive tan armor designed for tropical environments, T-21 heavy blasters that could punch through standard body armor. Dangerous but predictable. Chief waited in shadow until they passed, then continued. The data vault was 3 levels down, behind enough security to stop a conventional assault team. Biometric scanners, retinal verification, coded access, and armed guards. Chief's approach: none of the above. He reached a maintenance junction directly above the vault's ventilation system. The access shaft was too small for a normal human. Chief's armor barely fit. He descended slowly, his motion tracker showing the vault's interior. 4 guards, 2 technicians, 1 officer reviewing data at a terminal. 7 targets. 7 potential complications. Chief couldn't risk combat this deep inside the facility. Sound would carry, alarms would trigger, lockdown protocols would trap him. He needed the technicians alive and cooperative. He observed, waited, learned the patterns. The guards rotated positions every 20 minutes. The technicians worked in shifts, one monitoring systems, one processing data requests. The officer reviewed classified files, his attention focused on his work. After 40 minutes of observation, Chief identified a 30-second window when 3 guards would be at the far end of the vault and the officer would be facing away from the ventilation grating. 30 seconds. It would have to be enough. Chief removed the ventilation grating with surgical precision. No sound, no vibration, just careful application of force at structural weak points. He dropped silently into the vault, his boots touching down between 2 server stacks. The nearest guard was 12 meters away, his back turned. The technician at the terminal was 8 meters away, wearing headphones. Perfect. Chief moved to the terminal. His armored hand covered the technician's mouth before the man could scream. Chief's other hand produced a small device. Not UNSC technology, but Rebel manufactured, designed to bypass Imperial security protocols. "Don't make a sound," Chief whispered, his helmet's external speakers tuned to minimum volume. "I'm not here to hurt you. I need access to classified files on Project Codename Stardust. You're going to provide that access, not if you understand." The technician's eyes were wide with terror, but he nodded. Chief had chosen this one carefully. Youngest technician, lowest security clearance, least likely to have fanatical Imperial loyalty. Someone who'd do what he was told to survive. "Good," Chief said. "Access the terminal. Search for Stardust. Transfer all related files to this data spike. You have 3 minutes. If you trigger an alarm, you'll be the first casualty. Clear?" Another terrified nod. The technician's hands shook as he worked, but he followed instructions. His fingers flew across the terminal, accessing directories that should have been locked, bypassing security Chief couldn't have cracked without days of work. The Empire's weakness wasn't their technology, it was the humans who operated it. Humans made mistakes, cut corners, valued survival over protocol. The data spike pulsed. Transfer in progress. Chief's HUD showed the download. 47 terabytes of classified information, schematics, resource allocations, construction timelines, weapon specifications, everything the rebellion needed to understand what the Empire was building. 2 minutes into the download, the officer turned around. His eyes met Chief's visor. For one frozen moment, neither moved. The officer's hand started toward his comm unit. Chief was faster. He crossed the distance in 3 augmented strides, his knife hand striking the officer's wrist, the weapon spinning away. His other hand caught the officer in a chokehold, precise pressure on the carotid arteries, cutting blood flow to the brain without crushing the windpipe. 7 seconds. The officer went limp. Chief lowered him quietly, then turned back to the terminal. The guards had noticed. Of course they had. The officer dropping suddenly, the slight sound of the scuffle, it was enough. They were moving, weapons rising, training overriding surprise. "Intruder in the vault!" one guard shouted into his comm. "Security breach! Lock down the—" Chief threw his knife. 20 meters. Moving target. Perfect accuracy. The blade buried itself in the guard's comm unit, destroying it before the message completed. The other guards opened fire. Blaster bolts filled the vault. Chief's shields flared, absorbing the impacts while he grabbed the terrified technician and used a server stack as cover. The data transfer was at 78%. He needed more time. "Download faster," Chief ordered the technician. "Compress if necessary." "How long?" 30 seconds, maybe 40, the man stammered. "I can't—" "You can," Chief interrupted. His E-11 rifle was in his hands now, returning fire with calculated precision. He wasn't trying to kill the guards. Dead Imperial soldiers would raise too many questions, but wounded guards would slow the response, create chaos, buy him the time he needed. His shots struck weapons, shattered armor plates, disabled without killing. The guards dove for cover, their professional training warring with the terror of facing something that moved impossibly fast and shot with inhuman accuracy. "Security to Vault 7. Intruder engaged. Repeat. Intruder engaged. The facility alarm wailed. Red emergency lighting flooded the corridors. Chief heard boots pounding, reinforcements converging from every direction. His motion tracker showed the nightmare scenario. 40 contacts inbound, more spawning every second. The entire garrison was mobilizing. Download complete, the technician shouted. Chief grabbed the data spike, mag-locked it to his armor, and analyzed escape routes. Every exit was compromised. Every corridor filled with incoming hostiles. His shields were at 54% and dropping. Ammunition for the E-11 was at 40%. This was rapidly transitioning from infiltration to survival situation. New plan, Chief muttered to himself. He turned to the still conscious technician. Where's the facility's central power distribution? Sub-level 4, but you can't. Sub-level 4, Chief repeated. Thank you for your cooperation. He stunned the technician with a precise strike. The man would wake up hours later with a headache in a story no one would believe. Chief moved toward the vault's auxiliary exit, the one marked emergency use only. Perfect. He blew the door with a thermal detonator, excessive force, but necessary. The explosion cleared the path and created enough chaos that the incoming guards had to recalculate their approach. Chief ran. Sub-level 4 was exactly where the technician said. A massive chamber filled with power conduits, generators, and enough energy to run a small city. Chief placed his remaining thermal detonators at strategic points, setting timers. 3 minutes. Enough time to escape, not enough time to defuse. All units, intruder heading to lower levels. Cut him off at... Chief's E-11 sent a burst through a power conduit. Sparks exploded. The lights flickered. Emergency backup systems engaged, but they took 7 seconds to stabilize. 7 seconds of darkness. 7 seconds of chaos. 7 seconds was all Chief needed. He climbed. Not toward the exits. Those would be sealed, fortified, impossible to breach. Instead, he went up through maintenance shafts, through areas security had written off as secure by obscurity. The facility's architects had been smart, but they'd assumed intruders would try to escape through obvious routes. Chief went through walls, through sealed chambers, through spaces too small for normal humans. His armor's shields were at 31%. His ammunition was down to 1 power cell. His thermal detonators timers showed 90 seconds remaining. He needed to be outside the facility when they detonated, or the collapsing structure would bury him. Chief emerged on the facility's exterior, a massive shield gate protecting the data archive, with only a narrow corridor between the shield and the facility's outer wall. Death troopers were there, their black armor distinctive even in the tropical sunlight. 6 of them, moving with the precision of elite special forces. They saw him, raised their weapons, didn't hesitate. Chief ran toward them. The death troopers were good. Better than stormtroopers, better than shore troopers. Their shots were accurate, disciplined, coordinated. Chief's shields absorbed hit after hit, dropping to 18%, then 12%, then 7%. His armor's integrity warning screamed. One more solid hit and he'd be fighting without shields. But Chief had been fighting without shields since he was 14 years old. He closed the distance. His combat knife was gone, lost in the vault. His E-11 was empty. But he had his armor, his augmentations, and 3 decades of close-quarters combat experience. The first death trooper swung his rifle like a club. Chief caught it, crushed the barrel, and used the trooper's momentum to throw him into his companion. The second trooper tried to shoot point blank. Chief's armored hand caught the barrel, forced it aside, and delivered an elbow strike that cracked the trooper's helmet. The third trooper was smarter. He dropped his rifle and pulled a vibroblade. Decent weapon. Good tactics. Not good enough. Chief disarmed him in 3 moves, broke his arm in 2, and left him screaming on the ground. The remaining 3 death troopers backed off, reassessing. They'd been told to expect a dangerous intruder. They hadn't expected a living weapon that fought like a Mandalorian berserker in armor that made them look like children. Behind Chief, the facility exploded. The thermal detonators detonated in sequence, exactly as programmed. Power distribution collapsed. Secondary explosions followed as generators overloaded. The shield gate's power supply failed. The massive energy barrier that had protected Scarif's data vault flickered and died. And through that gap, the rebel fleet appeared. The Ghost led the assault. Hera's flying was perfect, threading through Imperial fire like the ship was dancing. Behind her came a dozen rebel fighters, their mission simple: create enough chaos that Chief could escape in the confusion. "Chief, this is Ghost," Hera's voice crackled over the comm. "I'm reading your beacon. Are you mobile?" "Affirmative," Chief replied, running toward the beach. "Extraction point Alpha. 30 seconds. We'll be there in 20. Try not to get killed before then." Chief sprinted across Scarif's tropical beach, his boots kicking up white sand. Behind him, the Imperial facility burned. Above him, TIE fighters engaged rebel ships in a furious dogfight. Ahead of him, the ocean glittered in the sun. The Ghost dropped through the chaos, its ramp lowering while still airborne. Chief didn't slow down. He leaped, his armor's remaining power channeling into his legs, launching him 15 meters up and into the Ghost's cargo bay. He hit the deck, rolled, and Hera was already pulling up, her engines screaming as she rocketed away from Scarif. "Got him!" Seb shouted. "Punch it." The Ghost jumped to hyperspace 3 seconds before the Star Destroyer's tractor beam locked on. Scarif fell away, replaced by the blue-white tunnel of faster-than-light travel. Chief stood slowly, his armor's diagnostics reporting critical system damage. Shield generator offline, left shoulder actuator damaged. Power cells at 19%. Environmental seals compromised. He'd need hours of maintenance to restore full functionality. But he was alive, and he had the data. "Did you get it?" Kanan asked, breathing hard. The fleet engagement had been brief but brutal. They'd lost 2 fighters covering Chief's extraction. Chief pulled the data spike from his armor and held it up. "Affirmative. Complete intelligence package on the Imperial weapons platform. Construction timelines, specifications, strategic deployment plans. Everything the rebellion needs." Sabine took the spike reverently. "You actually did it. You infiltrated the most secure facility in the galaxy, stole their most classified secrets, and escaped alive." "That's the mission," Chief replied simply. "Spartans always complete the mission." But as he said it, Chief thought about the 2 rebel pilots who hadn't made it out, thought about the technician he'd terrorized, the guards he'd injured, the destruction he'd caused, thought about what Cortana would say about the collateral damage. She'd probably say it was necessary, that the intelligence was worth the cost, that he'd done what needed to be done. Chief wished he believed that as easily as he used to. "Let's get you to medical," Hera said gently. "You took a lot of hits. Your armor's smoking." "Negative," Chief replied. "First priority, deliver the data to Rebel Command. My status is secondary." "Chief, that's an order," Chief said, then caught himself. "Recommendation, strongly worded recommendation." Hera smiled despite the tension. "You're learning. All right, we'll transmit the data to Commander Sato immediately. But after that, you're getting medical attention whether you like it or not. Clear?" "Clear," Chief acknowledged. As the Ghost traveled through hyperspace toward Atallan, Chief accessed the data spike through his armor systems. He reviewed the files, his HUD scrolling through terabytes of information, schematics resolved into 3-dimensional models. Resource allocation documents revealed the scale of the project. And slowly, inevitably, Chief understood what the Empire had built. A battle station, moon-sized, equipped with a super laser capable of destroying entire planets with a single shot. The ultimate terror weapon, designed to make resistance not just difficult, but unthinkable. A galaxy held hostage by the threat of annihilation. The Empire called it the Death Star, and it was almost complete. "Everyone needs to see this," Chief said quietly. "Now." The crew gathered around as Chief projected the files. The holographic Death Star rotated slowly, its dimensions impossible to comprehend. A weapon that could end worlds, that could erase civilizations with the push of a button. "By the Force," Kanan whispered. "How do we fight something like that?" Chief studied the schematics, his tactical mind already searching for weaknesses, for vulnerabilities, for some way to turn the Empire's greatest weapon into its greatest failure. And there, buried in the technical specifications, he found it. A thermal exhaust port, 2 meters wide, leading directly to the reactor core, heavily shielded, almost impossible to hit. But if a precise shot could be delivered, If someone with perfect accuracy could fire a proton torpedo down that shaft, the resulting chain reaction would destroy the entire station. It was a 1 in a million shot, but Chief had beaten worse odds. "We can destroy it," Chief said, pointing to the vulnerability on the hologram. "It's not invincible. Nothing is. We just need to get close enough to exploit the weakness." "That's assuming we can even reach it," Sabine said. "The station will have hundreds of TIE fighters, defensive turbo lasers, capital ship escorts. Getting close enough for that shot is suicide." "Then we make it possible," Chief replied. "We plan, we prepare, we execute with precision, and we destroy the Empire's ultimate weapon before it becomes operational." The crew stared at him, this Spartan from another galaxy, standing in smoking armor, proposing an attack on a moon-sized battle station with supreme confidence. "You're insane," Ezra said, but there was hope in his voice. "Completely, absolutely insane. Insanity is continuing to fight a war the same way while expecting different results," Chief corrected. "This is tactics. Difficult tactics, but achievable." As the Ghost dropped out of hyperspace near Atalon, Chief looked at the crew he'd come to trust. The rebels who'd given him purpose when he'd lost everything. The soldiers who taught him that sometimes the mission wasn't just about completing objectives, it was about protecting the people beside you. "Thank you," Chief said quietly, "for pulling me out of that crater on Lothal, for trusting me when you had no reason to, for showing me that some wars are worth fighting, even when they're not your own." "Chief," Hera said, her expression soft, "this isn't just our war anymore. You made it yours the moment you chose to stand with us." Chief nodded slowly. She was right. He'd chosen this. Chosen to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Chosen to stand against an empire that represented everything he'd spent his life opposing. He was Master Chief Petty Officer John 17. He was a Spartan, and he was exactly where he needed to be. 6 months after Scarif, the rebellion had transformed from scattered resistance cells into something resembling an actual military force. The intelligence Chief extracted had given them strategic advantage. They knew the Death Star's completion timeline, its planned deployment route, its operational capabilities. More importantly, they knew it could be destroyed. Mon Mothma stood in Atalon's command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing rebel fleet positions across the galaxy. Dozens of ships, corvettes, frigates, starfighters, all converging on Yavin 4, the jungle moon that would serve as the staging ground for the rebellion's most desperate gambit. Beside her stood Commander Sato, Admiral Raddus, and General Dodonna, the military minds who'd turned rebel dreams into actionable strategy. And standing at the tactical table, reviewing attack vectors with the cold precision of a man who'd done this 1,000 times before, was Master Chief. "The Death Star will emerge from hyperspace here," Chief said, marking the position on the hologram. "Yavin Prime's mass will obscure it initially, buying us approximately 30 minutes before it can achieve firing position on Yavin 4. That's our operational window. 30 minutes to penetrate their defenses, reach the thermal exhaust port, and deliver the killing shot." 30 minutes, General Dodonna repeated, his weathered face grim. "Against the most powerful weapon ever created, defended by hundreds of TIE fighters and turbolaser batteries that can vaporize capital ships." "Affirmative," Chief confirmed, "which is why the attack must be executed with surgical precision. Gold Squadron and Red Squadron will form the primary assault wing, Y-wings and X-wings, optimal balance of firepower and maneuverability. Blue Squadron maintains defensive screen, prevents TIE fighter breakthrough to our capital ships." "And you?" Admiral Raddus asked, studying the Spartan with frank curiosity. The Mon Calamari had heard stories. Impossible stories about a soldier from another galaxy who'd infiltrated Scarif, captured Inquisitors alive, and fought like an army of one. "Where will you be during this attack?" Chief's golden visor reflected the hologram's glow. "Gold Leader's Y-wing, rear gunner position. I'll provide defensive fire and tactical coordination, while maintaining the precision shot capability if primary shooters are eliminated." "You've never flown in a Y-wing before," Commander Sato observed. "I've flown in atmospheric and void combat across multiple theaters for 25 years. Y-wing controls are similar to UNSC Pelican dropships." I'll adapt. There it was again, that absolute certainty. Not arrogance, but the confidence of someone who'd faced impossible odds so many times that impossibility had become merely another tactical parameter to account for. What about our prisoners? Mon Mothma asked, shifting subjects. The Inquisitors. They've been in containment for 6 months. Seventh Sister has been cooperative, providing intelligence on Imperial force deployments, inquisitorious operations, but the other two remain hostile. Chief had spent considerable time with the captured Inquisitors. Seventh Sister, whose real name she'd finally revealed was Alara, had indeed cooperated. She'd been a Jedi Padawan once, before Order 66, before the Empire found her and broke her. The woman who emerged from that breaking had served the Inquisitorius for 3 years before Chief captured her. Now, slowly, painfully, she was learning to be Alara again instead of Seventh Sister. Alara has earned supervised release, Chief said. Her intelligence has saved lives. She's requested permission to fight with the rebellion, specifically to help defend Yavin 4 during the Death Star assault. Absolutely not, General Dodonna said immediately. She's a dark side user. The moment we give her a weapon, she'll fight for the same reason I do, Chief interrupted, his mechanical tone somehow carrying conviction. Because she's choosing to. Because she wants to prove she's more than what the Empire made her. Fifth brother and eighth brother are still prisoners because they haven't made that choice. Alara has. Mon Mothma studied Chief carefully. You trust her. I trust that she understands the alternative. The Empire views her as a failed asset. The rebellion views her as a prisoner. Her only path to anything resembling freedom is proving her loyalty through action. That's not trust. That's tactical assessment of incentive structures. Cold, Admiral Raddus muttered, but logical. Spartans are trained for logic over emotion, Chief replied. Emotion compromises mission effectiveness. And yet, Mon Mothma said gently, you're arguing for a prisoner's redemption. That sounds remarkably like compassion, Chief. Behind his visor, Chief considered this. 6 months ago, he would have eliminated the Inquisitors as threats, filed them under enemy combatants neutralized, and moved on. But 6 months with the Ghost Crew, 6 months of seeing Kanan trust former enemies, Hera believe in second chances, Ezra maintained hope even when situations seemed hopeless, had changed something in his tactical calculations. Not emotion. Spartans didn't do emotion, but maybe pragmatism. The recognition that humans were more valuable as allies than corpses. Recommend Alara be assigned to defensive position on Yavin 4, Chief said, steering back to tactics. If Imperial ground forces attempt landing during the battle, her combat capabilities will be valuable. She fights under supervision, proves her loyalty, earns consideration for full integration into rebel forces. And if she betrays us? Sato asked. Then I'll eliminate the threat personally, Chief replied. But I don't believe she will. She's seen what the Empire does to failed assets. She knows cooperation is survival. Mon Mothma made the decision with the weight of someone who'd made hundreds of impossible choices. Approved. But Chief, she's your responsibility. If she turns, if she harms anyone on our side, it's on you. Understood, Chief acknowledged. I accept responsibility. The briefing continued for another hour, refining every detail of the attack plan. Y-wings would make the trench run, slower than X-wings but more heavily shielded, better suited for running the gauntlet of defensive fire. X-wings would provide fighter escort, engaging TIE fighters and keeping them off the bombers. The capital ships would maintain distance, unable to close without being destroyed by the Death Star's super laser. It was a desperate plan, a Hail Mary, a last throw of the dice. It was also the only plan that had any chance of working. The Ghost Crew gathered in their common area one last time before the battle. Kanan meditated quietly, centering himself in the Force. Ezra checked his lightsaber obsessively, his nervous energy barely contained. Sabine painted new designs on her armor. Tradition, she said, for luck. Zeb cleaned his bow rifle with the methodical care of a soldier who'd fought too many battles to take equipment maintenance lightly. Hera ran pre-flight checks on the Ghost for the 3rd time, unwilling to trust anyone else with her ship's readiness. And Chief stood at the viewport, watching Yavin 4's jungle canopy below, his armor gleaming from fresh repairs and upgrades. The Atalan base's engineers had worked miracles, integrating rebel power cells with his Mjolnir systems, fabricating replacement parts using specifications Chief provided, even managing to restore partial functionality to his active camouflage. Not full capability, but enough for brief tactical applications. "You know we might not make it back," Kanan said quietly, approaching from behind. The Jedi's presence in the Force was calm, centered, accepting of whatever fate awaited. "Probability of mission success is approximately 31%, Chief replied. Probability of total crew survival is lower. 18%, maybe 20% if factors align favorably. And you're okay with those odds?" "I've survived worse," Chief said. "Fought through situations where survival probability was calculated at less than 1%. Spartans don't refuse missions because they're dangerous. We refuse missions that serve no strategic purpose. This mission serves purpose. The Death Star must be destroyed." "That's not what I asked," Kanan pressed. "I asked if you're okay, not your tactical assessment, not your probability calculations. You, the person inside that armor." Chief was silent for a long moment. In 6 months with the Ghost Crew, no one had asked him that question. They'd asked about his capabilities, his tactical recommendations, his combat readiness. But not whether he, John 1 and 17, not Master Chief, was okay. "I don't know," Chief admitted finally. It was possibly the most honest thing he'd said since arriving in this galaxy. "Spartans aren't trained to evaluate emotional status. We're trained to complete missions regardless of personal condition." "That's not healthy," Kanan observed. "That's being a Spartan," Chief corrected. "Healthy is irrelevant. Effectiveness is what matters." "Does it?" Kanan asked. "Or is that just what they told you to make you keep fighting?" Chief's helmet turned toward Kanan. Behind the visor, memories flickered. Dr. Halsey explaining why he'd been chosen. Mendez pushing them beyond human limits during training. The other Spartans, Sam, Kelly, Fred, Linda, fighting beside him through decades of war. Johnson's final words, Cortana's deterioration. "They didn't have to make me keep fighting," Chief said quietly. "I chose to. Every mission, every battle, every time I could have walked away and didn't. Those were my choices." "And this battle?" Kanan asked. "This isn't your war. This isn't your galaxy. You could take a ship, disappear into the unknown regions, spend the rest of your life searching for a way home. No one would blame you. So why are you here, about to fly into what's probably a suicide mission against a weapon that can destroy planets?" Chief watched Yavin 4's forests scroll past below. Somewhere down there, rebel soldiers were preparing defensive positions. Technicians were fueling starfighters. Pilots were saying goodbye to friends they might never see again. All of them scared. All of them staying anyway. All of them choosing to stand against an empire that wanted to crush hope into dust. "Because Spartans never leave their team behind," Chief said. "And you're my team now. This crew, this rebellion, these people fighting for something bigger than themselves. I can't go home. Can't change that. But I can fight for the people here now, who need someone willing to stand when everyone else wants to run." "That's the most human thing I've ever heard you say," Kanan said, something like respect in his voice. "Welcome to the rebellion, Chief, officially and completely this time." "I've been in the rebellion for 6 months, Chief replied. "No," Kanan corrected. 6 months ago, you were a soldier looking for tactical advantage and a way home. Now you're fighting because it's the right thing to do. There's a difference." Before Chief could respond, Chopper rolled in beeping frantically. Hera's voice crackled over the comm. "All personnel, battle stations, long-range sensors detecting massive hyperspace signature. It's the Death Star. 30 minutes until firing position. This is it." The common area exploded into controlled chaos. Kanan and Ezra grabbed their gear and ran for their assigned X-Wing. Sabine checked her helmet seals one last time. Zeb muttered something that sounded like a Lasat prayer. Hera sprinted for the cockpit. Chief mag-locked his weapons, E-11 rifle, fully charged. Backup power cells, thermal detonators, combat knife. His MA-5D loaded with the last 12 rounds of UNSC ammunition he'd managed to fabricate. Probably useless in space combat, but Chief never went into battle without every available weapon. "Chief!" Ezra called out as he passed. May the Force be with you. And with you, Chief replied, the phrase still feeling foreign, but somehow appropriate. He made his way to the hangar where Gold Squadron was preparing for launch. The Y-Wings looked ancient, Clone Wars-era bombers that had been patched, repaired, and held together through sheer determination and mechanic skill. Gold Leader, an experienced pilot named John Vander, was already in his cockpit when Chief climbed into the rear gunner position. "You're the Spartan," Vander said over the internal comm. "Heard a lot of stories about you. Most of them sounded impossible." "Most of them probably are," Chief replied, settling into the gunner's seat and linking his armor's targeting systems with the Y-Wing's gun controls. His HUD lit up with firing solutions, threat assessments, tactical overlays. "But I'll do my best to add a few more impossible stories before this day is done." Vander laughed, the sound of a man who knew he was flying into hell, but chose to laugh anyway. "That's what I like to hear. All right, Chief, let's go kill a Death Star." The Y-Wing launched from Yavin 4's hangar, joining a formation of 24 fighters rising toward the stars. X-Wings from Red Squadron formed up beside them. Chief recognized Luke Skywalker in Red 5, the farm boy from Tatooine, who joined the rebellion just weeks ago and shown natural piloting talent that reminded Chief of every rookie Marine who'd ever surprised him with unexpected skill. Above them, the Death Star emerged from hyperspace. It was massive, moon-sized, just like the schematics promised. Its surface bristled with weapons. Its very presence seemed to warp space around it. The ultimate expression of Imperial might, designed to make resistance not just impossible, but unthinkable. "All wings report in," Gold Leader commanded. "Red 2 standing by. Red 3 standing by. Gold 5 standing by." One by one, the voices came through, pilots identifying themselves, confirming readiness, preparing to fly into what they all knew might be their last battle. Chief listened to each voice, cataloging them, remembering them. If he survived and they didn't, someone should remember their names. "Attention all ships," came the voice of Admiral Raddus from the profundity. "The Death Star is charging its super laser. Estimated time to firing position, 28 minutes. You know your mission. You know what's at stake. May the Force be with you all." "All wings," Gold Leader said, his voice steady despite the impossible odds. "Attack formation. Let's show the Empire what it means to attack a rebellion that won't die." The starfighter squadrons dove toward the Death Star, their engines blazing against the black of space. Chief's targeting systems tracked hundreds of TIE fighters, launching from the battle station's hangars, their distinctive twin-ion engines forming a deadly swarm. Turbo laser batteries began firing, filling space with lethal green energy. The Battle of Yavin had begun. Gold Squadron entered the Death Star's trench, a canyon of steel and weapons running along the station's equator, leading toward the exhaust port. TIE fighters pursued immediately, their superior maneuverability allowing them to match the Y-Wings every turn. Chief's rear gun swiveled, his augmented reflexes and armor's targeting integration turning him into a perfect defensive weapon. 3 TIE fighters closed on their position. Chief's gun barked, each shot precisely calculated. The first TIE exploded, its pilot never seeing the shot coming. The second broke off, its wings severed by Chief's fire. The third tried to dodge, but Chief had already calculated the evasion trajectory. His shot was waiting where the TIE would be, not where it was. Another explosion. "How the hell did you?" Gold Leader started. "Augmented reflexes and predictive algorithms," Chief explained calmly, already targeting the next wave of TIE fighters. "I'm tracking their approach vectors and calculating probable evasion patterns based on observed flight doctrine." "You're a damn machine," Vander muttered, but there was respect in his voice. "Negative," Chief replied, his guns firing again as 2 more TIE fighters fell. "Machines don't adapt. I do." The trench walls closed around them, turbo laser fire tracking their progress. Gold Squadron pushed forward, their Y-Wings taking hits but holding formation. Ahead, Chief could see the exhaust port, 2 meters wide, a target that seemed impossible to hit while flying at combat speeds through defensive fire. "I'm going in," Gold Leader announced. "Cover me." Chief swiveled his gun toward pursuing TIE fighters. providing cover fire while Vander lined up the shot. The port grew larger in Chief's vision. Closer. Almost there. Vander's finger tightened on the torpedo trigger. A turbolaser bolt struck their port engine. The Y-wing lurched violently, alarm screaming. "I've lost the shot," Vander shouted. "Pull up! Gold Squadron, pull up!" The remaining Y-wings broke off. Their bombing run failed. Red Squadron moved in immediately, X-wings diving into the trench with Luke Skywalker in the lead position. Chief watched through his targeting systems as the farm boy flew with impossible precision, dodging fire that should have killed him, making turns that should have been impossible. He's using the Force, Chief realized, watching Luke's flight patterns. The kid wasn't just flying on instruments and training. He was flying on instinct, letting the Force guide him through the maelstrom. "Red 5, you're almost there," came Wedge Antilles' voice. TIE fighters closed in. Chief couldn't reach them. Gold Squadron had been forced out of the trench, away from the action. He could only watch as Luke lined up for the shot that would either save the rebellion or doom them all. "Use the Force, Luke," a voice whispered over the comm. Chief's audio receptors couldn't identify the speaker. It sounded like an old man, speaking from nowhere and everywhere at once. Luke's targeting computer switched off. He was flying blind, trusting the Force completely. His finger squeezed the trigger. 2 proton torpedoes launched, streaking toward the impossibly small exhaust port. Time seemed to stop. The torpedoes disappeared into the port. For one eternal moment, nothing happened. Then the Death Star exploded. Not a small explosion, not a contained detonation. The entire battle station, all its weapons, all its power, all its terrible potential, erupted in a chain reaction that lit up space like a newborn star. The shockwave hit the retreating starfighters, tumbling them through space. But they survived. They all survived. And the Death Star, the Empire's ultimate weapon, the terror that was supposed to crush all resistance, was gone. Chief watched the expanding debris field, his tactical mind processing the impossible victory. They'd done it. Against odds that should have guaranteed failure, they'd destroyed a weapon capable of ending worlds. Because a farm boy trusted the Force. Because pilots flew into hell because it was the right thing to do. Because people chose to stand when logic said they should run. "All wings, return to base." Admiral Raddus's voice crackled over the comm, and Chief could hear the emotion the Mon Calamari was trying to hide. "The Death Star is destroyed. Yavin 4 is safe. The rebellion survives." The hangar erupted in celebration when the fighters landed. Pilots embraced, mechanics cheered, soldiers who'd prepared to die couldn't believe they were alive. Chief climbed out of the Y-Wing's gunner seat, his armor smoking from the battle's heat, and found himself surrounded by rebels wanting to thank him, celebrate with him, share in the impossible victory. He saw Alara, former seventh sister, standing at the hangar's edge, her face wet with tears. She'd fought defending Yavin 4's perimeter, protected rebel technicians from Imperial probe droids that had landed during the battle. She'd chosen to protect instead of destroy, chosen redemption over corruption. He saw the Ghost Crew, all of them alive, all of them whole, embracing each other with the desperate relief of people who'd expected to say goodbye forever. He saw Mon Mothma standing with General Dodonna and Admiral Raddus, watching the celebration with expressions that mixed joy with the terrible knowledge of how close they'd come to annihilation. And Chief felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not tactical optimism, not calculated probability of success. Real hope. The belief that maybe, just maybe, good people fighting for the right reasons could win against impossible odds. "Chief," Hera's voice cut through the noise. She pushed through the crowd, the rest of the Ghost Crew behind her. "You crazy Spartan, you did it. You actually helped us destroy the Death Star." "Negative," Chief corrected, but his tone was softer than usual. "Luke Skywalker destroyed the Death Star. I provided defensive support. There's a difference." "Stop being so damn modest," Sabine said, punching his armored shoulder. "You've been fighting with us for 6 months. You infiltrated Scarif. You captured Inquisitors. You helped plan the attack that saved the entire rebellion. You're a hero, Chief. Accept it." Hero. The word felt strange. Spartans weren't heroes. They were soldiers, weapons, tools used by smarter people to accomplish strategic objectives. They didn't get celebrated. They got deployed. But looking at these people, these rebels who'd become friends, who'd become family, Chief wondered if maybe that definition was wrong. Maybe being a weapon was what the UNSC had wanted him to be. Maybe being a hero was what he chose to be. The war isn't over, Chief said, because that was still true. The Death Star is destroyed, but the Empire remains. They'll retaliate. They'll build new weapons. The fight continues. Let them try, Kanan said, his lightsaber hanging casually from his belt, his expression calm and centered. We've proven something today that the Empire can never take from us. We've proven that tyranny can be defeated, that hope isn't just a dream, that people who stand together can accomplish the impossible. Agreed, Chief said, and I'll stand with you until this war is won or until I find a way home, whichever comes first. Or until we find a way to get you home while still winning the war, Ezra suggested, because I'm pretty sure you've earned the right to have both. Chief looked at the young Jedi, this street kid who'd grown into a capable Force user, who'd learned to channel his anger into strength without falling to darkness. Thank you, Ezra, but even if I could go home right now, I'm not sure I would. Not until I know you're all safe. Not until the Empire's broken. Not until people in this galaxy can live without fear. That might take years, Adhira observed. Then I'll fight for years, Chief replied simply. I'm a Spartan. We finish the fight. Later, during the medal ceremony, Chief stood beside Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, the two pilots who'd made the impossible shot reality. Princess Leia Organa placed medals around their necks, her face serene despite everything she'd lost, everything she'd sacrificed for the rebellion. When she reached Chief, she paused. You don't have to kneel, Leia said gently. You've earned more than that. Protocol suggests, Chief started. Protocol can wait, Leia interrupted with a slight smile. You're not from this galaxy, Master Chief. You don't know our customs, our traditions. But you fought for our freedom anyway. You stood with us when you had every reason to leave. That deserves more than protocol. She placed the medal over Chief's helmet, letting it rest against his armored chest. Thank you, from all of us, for proving that heroes can come from anywhere, even from another galaxy. Chief didn't know what to say. For once, his tactical vocabulary failed him, so he simply nodded, accepting the honor with the same stoic dignity he'd shown through 3 decades of war. As the ceremony concluded and the celebration continued, Chief found a quiet corner of the hangar. He removed his helmet for the first time in months, letting the cool air touch his scarred face, and looked up at Yavin 4's night sky. Somewhere beyond those stars was his galaxy, his universe, the UNSC, Earth, everyone he'd ever known. But here, now, in this galaxy far, far away, Master Chief had found something he'd lost when the Forward Unto Dawn was torn in half. A purpose, a team, a war worth fighting. He was still a Spartan, still a weapon, still a soldier in a war that never ended. But maybe, just maybe, he was something more now too. He was hope. He was proof that even in the darkest times, even against impossible odds, people who chose to stand could change the galaxy. And as long as there were people worth protecting, Master Chief would keep standing. Because Spartans never die. They just fight on. The legend of Master Chief spread across the galaxy in the months and years that followed. Imperial commanders whispered warnings about the Void in green armor. Rebel cells took courage from stories of the soldier from beyond the stars who'd helped destroy the Death Star. And in the archives of both Empire and Rebellion, his name became synonymous with the impossible made real. He fought alongside the Ghost Crew through countless operations, liberating worlds, rescuing prisoners, striking at Imperial infrastructure with surgical precision. He trained Rebel special forces in tactics developed across a different galaxy's wars. He proved again and again that the Force wasn't the only path to victory. Sometimes skill, determination, and absolute refusal to surrender were enough. Ilara, former Seventh Sister, became one of the Rebellion's most valuable operatives, her knowledge of Imperial tactics combined with her Force abilities, making her nearly unstoppable. Fifth Brother and Eighth Brother eventually chose cooperation over imprisonment, though their redemption took longer, was harder, required more proof. The Empire continued its war. New weapons, new atrocities, new threats. But the rebellion grew stronger, inspired by the knowledge that they'd destroyed the Empire's most fearsome weapon. That hope, once rekindled, burned too bright to be extinguished. And through it all, Master Chief fought on. Not because orders compelled him, not because duty demanded it, but because he'd chosen to. Because in a galaxy not his own, fighting a war not his to fight, he'd found what every soldier searches for, but few ever find. A cause worthy of sacrifice, people worthy of protection, a team that became family. He never found a way home. The dimensional rift that brought him to this galaxy remained a mystery, unrepeatable and unexplained. Some nights, standing watch while his crew slept, Chief wondered if the Forward Unto Dawn's other half still existed somewhere, if other Spartans searched for him, if anyone remembered the soldier who'd fallen through reality. But those thoughts came less frequently as years passed. Because home, Chief learned, wasn't always a place. Sometimes it was people. Sometimes it was a cause. Sometimes it was standing on a ship's deck, watching hyperspace stream past, knowing that tomorrow would bring another battle and finding purpose in that certainty. The Galaxy Fair, far away, gained a new legend. Not a Jedi, not a Sith, not a Force user or a chosen one or a prophesied hero. Just a soldier in green armor who'd proven that sometimes the greatest power wasn't mystical energy or ancient wisdom. Sometimes it was simple human determination to stand when everyone else fell, to fight when logic said surrender, to hope when despair seemed inevitable. Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 had saved humanity countless times in his own galaxy. In this one, he'd helped save something just as precious, the belief that tyranny could be defeated, that ordinary people could accomplish extraordinary things, that hope, once lost, could be found again. The war continued. Wars always do. But the rebellion fought with renewed strength, knowing they had a Spartan standing with them. And somewhere in the unknown reaches of space, perhaps other dimensional travelers looked up at strange stars and wondered if they too could find purpose in a galaxy not their own. If they too could become more than what they were made to be. If they too could become legends. The answer, Master Chief had proven, was yes, because Spartans never die, and neither does hope.